All right, let's give this a shot. We're doing this a totally different way than we normally do. So I don't know if it's going to work. You're going to have to bear with me for just a second. We're trying to get YouTube to recognize this thing a little bit better. Normally, I use... what do we call it? Normally, I use the OBS connect automatically thing. This time we're actually using like the stream key. We're getting really super duper ridiculous here. So we're gonna try to check this stuff out. See if anything makes a difference here. All right, looks okay to me. With that being said, all right, should we get into this right away? There are a couple of things I wanted to check out first. Okay, the first thing that I wanted to check out, and I'm going to actually record this. The first thing I wanted to check out today is this video from Metatron. Now, this is from 3 days ago, and this is about the ice shooter. We've made a couple videos on this. The first one, basically reporting on it right out the gate. Second one, there was a little bit of time afterwards. We learned a little bit more about the bad guy in question, and basically motives at this point. Maybe I'm wrong, because apparently some people are disagreeing with me, but it seems that this guy was perhaps just crazy. Perhaps the guy was just crazy. Now, certainly there's an argument to be made that everyone who commits an act of, violence is sick in the head. Absolutely, that is the case. You could make an argument for that, I should say. But there's also the fact that a lot of people will commit political violence, will commit sort of, terrorist actions, not because they are delusional, but because they have a deep-seated belief that that violent action is just, correct, and, necessary. I disagree in the vast majority of those cases that it is actually necessary, but it happens. It does happen, and you can't just, I think, sweep everybody into the same bin of if someone commits a potentially political violent act, that they're just a crazy person. You actually do have to potentially look at them and say, well, no, maybe they did this because the rhetoric of a certain side is pushing that as the correct solution. It is the right, justifiable action. I think with the Charlie Kirk assassination, you can definitely make that case that the person who committed that crime was not just, mentally unwell. They did it because they wanted to do it. And it was an evil act they committed for incorrect reasons, but I don't think the person was acting, I want to say, irrationally. They were acting rationally evil. Let's put it that way. Now, with the ice shooter, apparently people are still trying to say, I shouldn't say people, one person specifically who's commenting on these videos is saying that the person is libertarian. I've gone through all the evidence that I could find that would even suggest that to be the case. The evidence that I've seen is massively flimsy, is basically one quote from a friend that he lost touch with years ago, saying that his politics were kind of sort of libertarian leaning. He was not registered as a libertarian. As far as I can tell, he never voted as a libertarian. He was registered as an independent, and I believe voted Democrat in the one election that he voted in. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of those facts. I believe that's the case. Also, The general idea is he committed this crime. The article that I was reading was that he committed this crime because 4chan brainwashed him into being a super duper, um, how can irony poisoned, like contrarian. He basically did it to troll and for the lulz. That seems wrong to me because generally speaking, again, like if you're super crazy, if you're that delusional and you're that crazy, then you can't point to anything political. You can't point to any of the reasons that they're giving for this is why I did it. It's like, no, you would have done this for any reason whatsoever. If you're that crazy that, a couple memes made you go out and, shoot up an ICE facility, then anything would have made you commit an act of violence. The fact that it's directed at the ICE facility, I think people are reasonable in saying, look, every other ICE facility attack, again, correct me if I'm wrong, was committed by a leftist. There's certainly a ton of anti-ICE rhetoric going around. It's not irrational to basically make a snap judgment and go, probably this person was left-leaning politically, and very possibly the person was motivated by leftist anti-ICE rhetoric in doing it. Now, that being said, it's not 100% confirmed, and also, I don't even know if you can't 100% confirm this. You can't telepathically time travel and figure out exactly what is in this person's mind at the time they're doing it. You have to use your best judgment based on the available evidence, whatever's out there now, whatever will come out in the future. You have to do that. Currently, the best you could say is that this might not have been politically motivated and this person was just, a lunatic. That's kind of the most apolitical take that I think you could reasonably make now. The bullet casing having the anti-ICE messaging on it, again, the one article that I read was like, well, maybe it wasn't a leftist anti-ICE thing. Again, it was just there to troll. Again, sure, that's a possibility. I don't know if it fits the evidence. It's possible, but certainly someone trying to say, okay, this person's like libertarian or right-leaning, and this was like a false flag or something like that. I don't think there's any evidence of that. That's why I wanted to check into this Metatron video. This is, again, it's come a couple days ago. I wanted to see if he's got any more information, if he found any other sources that I haven't gone over. So I want to double check that. Let's double check it.
I want to continue talking about this situation with the recent shooter in Dallas because I told you in the previous video, I said this. Now watch them starting to deny it. Watch them. It's the usual sing and dance. And here you have it. The amount of lies is absolutely incredible. Let's begin with this one. Brian Krasenstein says, this is sick, can't even spell. A white male, note how he had to specify, has reportedly opened fire at immigrants at an ICE facility in Dallas, Texas. We certainly have a problem in this country, a disgusting problem. So this is nonsense because he didn't. He shot a van. So unless you're telling me he had X-ray vision, it is a lot more likely that he was shooting, hoping to get several ICE agents, right? That's the one that makes more sense. Also,
certainly with the bullet casing we've found that's had anti-ICE on it, yeah, seems very clear that they were trying to shoot up ICE people as opposed to immigrants at an ICE facility.
So because, as we know, in the casing we have the anti-ICE writing. Now, I understand that there are people that are trying to bring up now this conspiracy whereby, oh no, the FBI wrote that one. I don't believe that. I think it's a real piece of evidence because too many mouths would have had to stay shut. With that being said, even if there were the...
And the other side of that is, again, like, you can always use that argument. Oh my God, the FBI did it. The police planted this as evidence. All of that, you can always make that argument, and you can't ever 100% deny it as a possibility. But if you're using that as your argument, like if that's the only argument that you have to like explain away this evidence, then you're not really making an argument. You're just like trying to throw anything at the wall to see if anything sticks to deny, the things that are right in front of your face.
Case. Still, if this was a right-winger who absolutely hates immigrants, and this is what it was, then why choosing an ICE facility? There are plenty of migrants around the country, aren't there? So I think going to shoot at an ICE facility at this point, risking to injure ICE agents that you absolutely love, makes zero sense.
Agreed.
Like, this is logics, guys. And I'm sure you can appreciate what I'm saying, whether you are center, right, or left, up or down. It's reason and logics. This is nonsense. And he continues. Who writes anti-ICE on bullets just before shooting three immigrants?
So this is September 24th. 2025. I'm trying to think, when did this? Okay, so this is perhaps like directly after it happened. Let's double check. When was Jan ICE shooting? Let's see if I can spell correctly. This is like directly after it happened, September 24th. So this is the same day. Yeah, this is the same day. So this person's just basically like making shit up at this point. It's just speculating with no evidence.
Being
This is a very authoritative source.
Detained by ICE. Suddenly those who never trusted the FBI are suddenly convinced by this. No, we're convinced by the fact, you absolute moron, we're convinced by the fact that, as I explained, he did not have X-ray vision, and it just doesn't make any sense that someone with a anti-immigrant sentiment would risk injuring ICE agents. It just doesn't make sense. You're a liar.
That's correct.
You're a manipulator. Here's one more thing I want to show you about that. And it's this image here. So let me just put myself a little bit. Okay. Look at this. This is the fishiest shit I've ever seen. We're supposed to believe the shooter wrote anti-ICE in pen on a bullet and then shot detainees and not ICE officers. Anyone else find it odd that Kash Patel's FBI wanted to make sure that everyone knew as early as possible that on the bullet it was anti-ICE written on it? They didn't say anything specific about the victims, the shooter, the weapons, nope, not that. And then this one, we already read it, and we've got Danny K. Politics.
I mean, yeah, I think that kind of seems like, isn't it odd? And I'm like, seems like the most pertinent information that they would give out. It's like, oh yeah, hey, we found a manifesto that says exactly who did it, why, and what their targets were, their motivation, everything that stuff. Okay, well, why did you publish that stuff? That's a little bit crazy. Why wouldn't you tell me about like what he had for breakfast that morning, or like where he got his haircut last, or anything about the weapons, or like, what was the conditions on the ground that they were laying on, that they were like, I mean, why wouldn't you tell us that kind of pertinent information, the stuff that's like seems to be pointing exactly to the motivation? Why would you be telling us about that? Because it seems to be the most pertinent information to the public, right?
MAGA claimed ICE agents were shot. Why were detainees killed if there was anti-ICE written on the bullet casing? It doesn't add up. They are like, it's like they have the same script. It's either they have the same script, or they're literally copying each other. They're like, oh yeah, that's a very good point. Let me own the chuds. Who hates ICE so much that they murdered 3 immigrants detainee in cold blood? Look, it's ridiculous.
And again, I mean, like, blue check mark, all of these people are apparently, as far as I can tell, being paid for their takes on news and politics and these types of things. They are basically just cherry picking certain facts and going, okay, how does this fit my narrative? Let me put that in there. And I don't know if they're just being really ill-informed, that they're not capable of understanding what happened. They're like, oh, okay, I see some of this stuff. These other facts are just irrelevant or whatever. Like, oh, it was in a van, we couldn't see anything, shooting it at this stuff. Yeah, 3 people were killed in this thing. And it's like, okay, like in any kind of thing, like, okay, like let's take the Trump assassination. Okay, because the one firefighter died, do you think the guy was aiming at him? Do you think he was trying to kill that firefighter specifically? Because he's the one who died. Like, obviously, No, anyone can understand that in a shooting, there can be innocent bystanders caught in the crossfire. That happens all the time. The the fact that you don't even acknowledge that as a possibility, or like it doesn't even appear in your mind as like, oh, well, okay, yeah, maybe that's what happened. You go, well, no, clearly that's not even a possibility. Therefore, this is a conspiracy by the FBI. Means that either you have no critical thinking, you have no imagination, or you are just you're doing this on purpose. You're trying to obfuscate the facts of the matter.
Claims as doesn't add up. Fired indiscriminately with a sniper rifle only hit detainees and not ICE agents conveniently left behind indescribed anti-ICE bullets, so we immediately know he was a leftist, in quotes, and used the same rifle type as Charlie Cook shooting, no spent casing, something doesn't add up. It is unbelievable. They are doing it all over again. First with Charlie. No, it was a Trump supporter. He loved Trump, and so he shot Charlie. Now it's this. Laughing at the lunacy of this tweet. This story doesn't add up. We are expecting to believe the shooter wrote anti-ICE on the bullet. It's the same thing. Anti-ICE written in Sharpie. I miss when the FBI was better at lying because WTF is this. Yeah, honestly, that as well. If this really was planted by the FBI, I'm sure they would have done a better job. I'm sure they could have written more rather than just anti-ICE. But that's the problem. People always think they're smarter than everyone. And everyone is stupid. Well, you all look like idiots now because it's quite clear, once you really use a little bit of reason and logic, that it makes absolutely no sense that someone who hates migrants was going to shoot at ICE. Not to someone who hates migrants, ICE is great. Right? So they're not going to go and shoot at a facility with ICE agents. It just doesn't make sense.
Right. And again, it's happened before. We know the political leanings of the people that attacked other ICE facilities. We certainly can look at where anti-ICE rhetoric is coming from. We can determine, yeah, that's coming from the left, not the right. So again, just logically, these things line up. Does it mean that 100% certainty it is the case? No, of course not. There's always potential exceptions, but to lean in the exact opposite direction and say, okay, well, everything logically points to it being a person on the left, therefore it's a person on the right. Obviously, that's silly. That's stupid.
An idiot. It was an idiot who shot. He thought it could hit the... he didn't know anything. He thought that the van was full of ICE agents. He shot, and he ended up, by mistake, unfortunately, and it is a tragedy, ended up killing some immigrants that obviously didn't deserve it. And my heart goes to them and their families. J.D. Vance made a statement, the obsessive attacks on law enforcement, particularly ICE, must stop. I'm praying for everyone hurt in this attack and for their families. Okay. And then there is a note saying, according to an ICE spokesperson, the 3 individuals shot were ICE detainees, leaving 2 individuals dead and 1 injured. No law enforcement were injured in this shooting, according to law enforcement and news reports out of Dallas, Texas. Look, J.D. Vance has said some things that I'm like, why did he even say that? But in this case, he didn't say anything wrong. This is correct.
Yeah, this is.
This is correct. He didn't. Yeah, the attack was on law enforcement that are Antifa right now protesting in front of a nice facility. And as long as it's a non-violent protest, that's in their rights. But if they turn it violence, that overrides. There's no right for violent protesting under the law. So we'll have to see how that progresses. I might cover it later. But if someone shoots an ICE facility, it is an attack on law enforcement and ICE facility. He didn't say anything wrong. And then he said, I'm praying for everyone hurt. Everyone hurt. He didn't say, I'm praying for the agents who were hurt. So this is not misinformation at all. And even the note is out of place. I mean, I guess to give further contact, not as a correction.
Yeah.
But this guy, John Favreau, I don't know who you are, but you're an idiot. The vice president is not a reliable source of information. This is all correct. This is how the 5th or 6th time he's posted a political take contradicted by facts from his own law enforcement agencies. And in fact, J.D. Vance responds and says, the gunman had anti-ICE messaging carved on the bullets he used. What precisely did I get wrong? Dipshit.
I guess if you wanted to be really nitpicky, you could say it's not carved on the bullets. You would say, oh no, it was written in pen or marker on the bullet casing as opposed to the actual bullet itself. Now, obviously, that is the kind of fact check that would be technically true, but obviously bullshit. It would obviously be something where you're going, no. He misspoke, but the message that he intended to communicate was correct. He is in a super duper technical, legal, you know, nitpicky sense, slightly incorrect. But the thing that he's trying to say is, yeah, carved on the bullet would be the thing that they would fact check. The anti-ICE messaging is the actual salient point, and that is correct.
Oh my gosh. Okay, maybe tone down the vocabulary, Mr. Vance. That's the only thing I'm saying, because it's a little unbecoming of a professional. But regardless of that, he is correct. He is correct. This guy, John whatever, is one of those who will say, facts, facts, 1.3 million, unbelievable. Facts, facts. But you're not sharing the facts. He was right. What, you don't think he would pray for the families because they're not ICE agents, the guys who died, but they are immigrants, so probably that's not what he meant. What are you on about? The report was correct. The report was correct. The deadly attack has rattled the Dallas community and drawn sharp attention to security vulnerabilities at federal facilities. Former law enforcement leaders have already described the incident as a, open quotes, serious security breach, close quotes, that underscores the need for immediate review of safety protocols. And here's another thing that I want to bring up to your attention. Why do you always have to have the victim before you tighten security? There was the assassination attempt of President Trump. Why was that even possible? And I would say the same if the attempt was at Biden, by the way. Before anyone says anything, I don't want any president nor candidate be shot in the head. Republican, Democrat, or Green. Then Charlie got shot, and now the funeral was number one, threat one, security measures. Now this happens, and now they're going to... I mean, could you not foresee it, really? Could you not foresee it? We are under attack. So yeah, there has to be security everywhere. You're going to have another college discussion. Personally, I would say do them from home at this point. If you have a family,
I would agree.
Do them from home.
I would agree. We're going to be covering that in another video later. But yeah, I mean, people are so riled up. We were kind of hoping, expecting that, there would be some phase shift, some vibe shift where like, okay, we've seen that, the rhetoric is over the top and it's going to, convert enough people in the middle who are reasonable to switch sides, to at least go, okay, you know what, we're not going to be doing this insane, crazy, violent rhetoric all the time, because actually now there are very obvious repercussions real life wise, and we'll do that. I think that probably will happen, but it's going to take some time, and a lot of the people in college are probably still in the midst of it. They're still, being boiled in that soup. So, yeah, do it from home. Definitely, yeah, don't put yourself in the line of fire. It's not a good move.
And if you still want to go to campuses, yeah, you need to place some proper agents in there. And then, I don't know, whatever the heck that it is, Secret Service, whatever you want, you've got to, because now we know this is a wave. There will be more. And there were other things, I'll cover them, but there were other shootings. There was one in a school. It just continues. There we go, Andrew Wilson, clearly a right-wing groyper. Yeah, I know, they will say this. They absolutely will. They twist it to an absolute... It's insane. And let me tell you this much. With all the people saying, oh no, the assassin, they have nothing to do with the left. These are independent thinkers. Or it was a criminal. It was a maniac that did this, but it doesn't represent anyone in any... It's like an independent, disconnected from politics. That's what they say, including Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel just said it. Exactly these words. But the split second, it is an act of right-wing violence, which is equally wrong. Split second, it is someone who's actually white supremacist and writes stuff on their guns and starts shooting in a black neighborhood, for instance. A horrible thing. Do you think they're gonna say, oh, this is an independent, it was just a maniac who acted alone, but it has nothing to do with conservative movement or right-wing and all the different substrata of thought?
Yes, and I mean, this is, again, anyone who has eyes, anyone who has ears, anyone who's listening, anyone who's paying attention, even super tangentially. Like, you could be, zonked out on fentanyl, mentally speaking, and absolutely go, yeah, these things are not being applied equally, okay? As is, again, evidenced by the idea of, like, right-wing political violence. The studies people are throwing out, like, oh yeah, look at all the right-wing political violence. okay, well, again, the stats that they use are so wrong. They're so bad. They are cherry picked from, only after a certain year, as opposed to previous years where there was a whole bunch of, obvious left wing political violence. All of these types of things, you'd go, okay, yeah, like these things are not being applied equally. And only if you are, purposefully, like, just blindfolding yourself, would you even be able to make that claim that, oh, yeah, no, they're the same. They're the same. No, it's not the case. If you have someone that is committing, right wing political violence or is making, incendiary political speech from, a conservative perspective, those people, I mean, like, they're already banned. They're already gone. They're already banned. Maybe they're coming back now because we've got a little bit of extra, free speech going on. But generally speaking, they're already gone. They've been gone. They've been gone for the last 10 years. And anytime there's anything that could even remotely be connected to a right wing political violent act, again, it doesn't actually have to be a really right wing politically motivated attack. It could just be something semi within the realm of that. They're gonna go, oh yeah, see. Yeah, it's the just ongoing right wing terror campaign. It's just, it doesn't line up with reality.
No, they will not only they will say, go far right white supremacists, as they should, if that's the case. I just want the facts to be reported. So they say that immediately. No one of these people that keep pretending this has no political affiliation whatsoever will ever say anything like it if it's from the other side.
And again, I mean, look, you can actually see this. The Ed Krasenstein guy, his tweet right after it happened was, it's a white male shooting at immigrants. Do you think he was not inferring that it was a right wing person? Do you think he was not suggesting that? Obviously, he didn't come out and say that specifically because, he's at least reasonably aware that, he could get completely dragged for making that when there's no evidence of the case. But do you think he was suggesting that, oh, okay, this person's just a maniac? Do you think he was capitalizing white male for no reason? Or do you think he was dog whistling that this was a racist, right-wing, MAGA fascist? Do you think maybe some people took it that way? Do you think what he was saying was totally objective and non-biased, and he wasn't using specific word choice and emphasis to suggest something? I kind of think, yeah, he probably sort of was. So, I mean, Metatron's completely correct here. He's completely correct.
Showing an incredible bias and manipulative approach. But then they'll connect it to the entirety of the right wing, including my center-right dad, who has nothing to do with this, who is a very peaceful individual, who never laughs at people's misfortunes, whether it be left, center, or right. No, they will say, oh, conservative, like Destiny, they speak in monolith, and that's what they do. So they will push it, and it's disgusting to see. I mean, look, here is a proof of what I was saying. So this was shared by Steven Crowder. Brian, at this point, I really don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. If you appreciate my content,
thank you for reporting on this, Metatron. Now, again, this is a little bit older. This is right after, not right after it happened, but again, I don't think we know any more actual legitimate information as far as motivations go. So far, I've seen nothing to contradict the idea that this was a left-wing shooter. The interviews with his friends, at best, and I mean, even the outlet that was reporting on it, which was left-leaning according to all the research and AI that I was able to find, basically said, maybe it's a little bit more complicated. Maybe it's a little bit, everyone is quick to jump on that he was left, he was a leftist because his actions lined up with leftist rhetoric. okay, the best they could say was, well, maybe it's a little bit more complicated. That's as far as they could go. Um, and I think that's as far as anyone could reasonably push the idea that this was apolitical. That's as far as they can go. It's basically like this person just did it for the lulz, and it just so happened that, his trolling crazy person wants to commit violence happened to line up with a target for, left wing violent rhetoric. I don't know. Again, give me some sources in the comments. Tell me how I'm wrong. I will happily report on it. The reason I'm not showing an article um, on this last video is because I didn't get any sources. I didn't get any news sources that said this guy was libertarian, that he was, right wing. I've seen no reporting, wasn't able to find anything new. Show me how I'm wrong. Please give me something to work with. If you're just gonna, say, no, this is wrong. He clearly the evidence is staring you right in the face. I'm like, you mean the article that I read? I went through the evidence. Here was my take on it. I think it's pretty good. Show me the logical inconsistencies. I'm not seeing them. I'm not seeing any argument on you how I'm wrong. So I think I'm right. Farewell for now. Yep. I mean, that's the best I got. I mean, like, really, again, seriously, I can't. The best I can do here is work with what I'm given. And I just haven't found it. I have not found any evidence that this person was anything other than left wing. Yeah, I mean, the most charitable political take I could give for this guy was that he was apolitical. Doesn't necessarily line up with some of the other things. I'm going on just purely one article where some guy interviewed, I think it was 3 of his friends who he lost touch with years ago. One of whom says he had a vaguely libertarian bent. Now, here's the thing. Libertarians, generally speaking, are happy to say they're like, I'm a libertarian. I'm happy to say I'm libertarian. In fact, people are probably like sick and tired of hearing it because most libertarian people are very happy and proud to say, this is what I believe, and here's the label that best describes me, libertarian. He wasn't registered libertarian, he was registered independent. Everything that they said about him was like, he hated both parties. Okay, totally. He has some, and this is where I would lean towards he was a leftist. He has some like pro-communist profile pictures. Again, assuming it's him. To me, that seems to suggest, okay, he, after his friends lost touch with him, he got down, the reason they lost touch with him was because they stopped hanging out with him because he was being kind of like online radicalized. He was being irony poisoned. He was just, being a crazy Redditor 4chan person. And, it was like, he was like, just getting super, super into that stuff. Do you think it's impossible? Do you think it's unlikely that given the current political climate and given the obvious like wave of left-wing political radicalization that's happened and is now coming to fruition, where in which, you have a whole bunch of crazy people doing assassinations and stuff. Do you think it's impossible? Do you think it's unlikely? Do you think it's not the most likely possibility that he went down the left wing radicalization rabbit hole and we could point to some things that support that thesis? It seems to me kind of, the most likely explanation. With the evidence that we've got, I would say that's probably the best explanation. It's not the only one. Certainly, it's not the only possibility. But again, without a, telepathic time traveler to be able to, read that person's mind and know exactly what was in their thoughts at the time. That's the best we got.
So we've seen a lot of violence over the last several weeks. We obviously really kicked off in a really sad way with Charlie Kirk, and then it escalated with a lot of violence in other situations. And a lot of people have been saying, hey, it's time to tone down the rhetoric, tone it down. And some people have taken the mantle of going to colleges and continuing the idea of having these conversations that obviously Charlie Kirk can no longer do. We saw Steven Crowder do his Change My Mind segment. He brought that back with $250,000 of security to do that, which is just insane.
Damn, I didn't know it was that
the
bad.
security that he had for that?
No.
I did not. I saw someone posted a picture of him like putting on a bulletproof vest. And once again, everyone's just like, oh, that's crazy that conservatives have to hire security and put on so much protection gear in order to speak, and the left doesn't really have to do that. And it's like, yeah, that's crazy. When are we going to do something about it?
That's crazy.
What are we going to do?
Right, right. So he came back. He had bulletproof glass on each side of him, flanking him on all sides. He had a ton of security all the way around him. He was wearing a bulletproof vest just to go to a college campus and have the conversations. Some would say, is it too much? I don't know. Ultimately, what's your life worth, right? But in addition to Crowder, there's been a guy named Cam Higbee who has also gone out and started having these conversations in the traditional Charlie Kirk format of setting up a table, going out with a microphone, and trying to have these conversations. It has been interesting to watch. As have you followed this Cam Higbee guy at all?
I have never even heard the name.
Yeah, no, I haven't either.
Once in my life.
Okay, so Cam Higbee.
I think this is the thing that's going around where they went to, maybe it's this guy, where they went to historically black colleges, universities, the HBCUs, and got escorted off campus, got, shown the door. AKA there was basically a violent mob, threatening the shit out of them and making them leave.
Let me kind of give you an update on his Twitter profile. He's
Maybe
a personality for Today Is America, news and commentary, field reporting, undercover journalism. Okay, this is the guy who got chased off of the Tennessee State campus
HBCU.
not too long ago.
So I think this is the thing we've seen rolling around.
He was having a conversation, and then he ended up getting escorted off. It just kind of slowly built up to the point to where they were booted off the campus, and they were just totally
escorted out. Seems like really a very polite way, oh, excuse me, sir, we would like to escort you out. We would not like you here and everything. It's no, they were basically fleeing for their lives.
All these people showed up. Did you see this, Kirsha?
No.
Definitely no.
Okay, well, I saw some of this.
He went out and he got booted off just for having these conversations, and he was out last night at another university, or actually out having these conversations publicly, when more people are starting to get a little bit more aggressive about this, and we saw all this last night. Where a lady got up in his face, and they're sitting there with their MAGA hats on, they got their microphone out, and they're
oh, I haven't seen any of this,
and they just want to have a conversation here, and this is what happened.
Good fucking night. Go home. Go home, Charlie. What was MLP?
Jesus, this person looks stable. What the hell? Okay, this is what the hell. Oh my god.
Stupid bitch.
Yeah, I love.
At the same time, she fell into the bush.
Right.
For real.
And so she gets maced in the face right here.
Yeah.
She gets up and this is another
Good Lord.
perspective of it here.
What the hell are you doing? What are you doing? No.
Right up in there, right up in the face.
I'm so exhausted of seeing all this stuff, and I know we have to see it to continue to understand exactly where we are.
Yeah.
If we don't, some people might get complacent and feel like we're winning, and I feel.
We are winning. This is not a good look. This is not a good look. This is the way I view this is these people who are being violent, crazy lunatics sided with, basically out and out evil at this point. They are the new KKK. In the sense that if you remember from like there's a South Park episode where it's like, hey, do you want something you want to build a pass? Do you want something to go forward? Okay, get the KKK to be for it. Everyone will just be against it. Get the KKK to, denounce it. Say that it's the worst thing ever. The bill will pass with 100% of everyone's votes. They will go, oh, absolutely. Yeah. Do you want this flag, gotten rid of? Okay, well then say that the KKK really loves that flag. It's gone. Now, like, we're seeing the start of that. All of these people, all of this optically is horrible. Anyone who watches this goes, okay, what is this person for? I'm against it. Awesome. And it's such a bad look that I don't think anybody can reasonably like empathize with what this person is doing, what they're saying, their behavior, their attitude, their way of, just comporting themselves in society. It's like, no, like this is a bad look. I don't want to be associated with this person. I don't want to be associated with this person. Maybe I don't like these MAGA people either, but I'm definitely not on this person's side. Whatever this person's side, doesn't mean I'm going to go full bore. I'm going to, join the people that she's opposing. But at the very least, I'm not on their side. I'm not on their side. Whatever that person's saying, like, yeah, no, either I'm against it or I'm not for it. That's where we're at. That's where we're at. And I mean, yeah, obviously these people are putting their lives on the line to gather more content demonstrating that. So, I mean, Kirsch's right. We do need to continue watching this to continue realizing where we are. But I'm very happy to say that this is a good move. This is a good thing. This is a good piece of history. We are moving forward, not backwards. That's not, yeah. I think she's a little bit too pessimistic. I think, it's correct to say we need to remain vigilant. We need to, not become complacent. But also, this is good. This is good movement for, society, the West in general.
Like we're on track to be doing so, but like
we are.
This is the behavior of someone who has been emboldened by every system around them.
Yes.
They've been told by every institution that they are a victim and that white men are specifically the problem. Conservatives are Nazis. And that's just like a buzzword to be using here to mark someone as acceptable to commit violence against. Because if Nazi no longer means, like somebody who advocates for the policies of Nazism, and it's just someone who is either conservative or I disagree with, and then after that step, it's acceptable to have any violence happen to someone who is designated a Nazi, this is just where we're going to be. Like you can't fight back against this if the person who is committing the violence against you is protected in every aspect. They can do this because they know there won't be any repercussions, even if they get arrested.
Right. But this is the thing. That used to be the case. And she's correct. This is why it is happening now, is because these people have seen the patterns. They've seen the history. They know, I should say, they think that they're good. They're golden. They are on the correct side. They're on the side, I shouldn't say the correct side, the side with the institutional cultural power. That is not the case anymore. That is not the case anymore. I'm not saying they're totally defeated, but they've lost the struggle that we're seeing now is basically like the sort of like guerrilla resistance of, the people that have sort of, bought into it so much that they can't divorce themselves from the fight. They have to continue doing it. And until those people are, totally pacified by, realizing that, nope, you lost, they're just going to continue doing it. Again, I feel like the momentum is going to get less and less and less. And right now, we're just kind of, we're feeling the speed bump, I guess, the turbulence of that, deceleration.
Even if the cops actually do their job and arrest them, they'll just be let go by the corrupt DAs. If they manage to get a DA that's not corrupt, once they're in front of a judge, the judge will just let them go. We've seen people with like 25 priors, 70 priors, 100 priors. I saw like last night or this morning. The entire system is stacked 100% against anyone that is not these violent, insane, histrionic people. And what can we do if every institution everywhere is either protecting or working for the interests of these people? We need more from the actual representatives who don't want this stuff to be happening. I am flabbergasted, and I don't exactly know what to say.
Yeah, real quick. I would just say, like, if we have something as stupid as hate crimes, I would like to make an amendment to the rule that anyone that interferes violently with free speech should get like 20, 30 years, immediate. Just put them in jail for a very long time.
Well, this lady got justice through macing right in her face. Here's the aftermath of it here as well.
It's
she
not
obviously
even going to be justice. Like,
No.
yeah, she got maced, but she feels emboldened by that. She can be like, yeah, of course they maced me because they're evil and they're racist and they just want to kill me.
Right.
And that's not true. These people.
And that's going to be, I don't remember. Like, I saw one thing from this. I don't know if it was this specifically. It was in the daytime, so it might have been earlier in the day from the same people. But one of the ladies was basically saying there were black people that were lynched on campus. And I'm like, okay, lynched is a very specific meaning in American history. So that didn't happen. Like that it just straight up didn't happen. Maybe this is what she's referring to. There was some like reprisal, some self-defense happened when someone got, massively up in your face, tried to, steal your property, tried to, potentially assault you or did assault you. Just because they didn't assault you effectively doesn't mean it wasn't assault. And they're going, oh, okay, that person got lynched because these evil right-wing MAGA fascist racists defended themselves by macing this person who was like assaulting them and acting crazy. Yeah, like that is how the sort of narrative stuff just like completely just like it brainwashes people to the point where I think that woman, I shouldn't say woman, that girl actually probably believed that like black people were straight up snatched off the street by racists in pickup trucks. A noose was thrown around their neck and they were hung from a tree like this was, the 1930s Deep South, which didn't happen, obviously.
To talk, and she feels just
in 2025. I don't know why I need to specify that, but I should, because I feel like someone is going to say, you're saying lynchings didn't happen? And I'm like, I mean, in history, 100 years ago, yeah, I was like, yeah, like 50 to 100 years ago, yeah, Today, no, I'm pretty sure we would have heard about that.
justified in violence, probably escalating up to killing them. And especially now that they attacked her, she feels like I was defending myself. They attacked me unprovoked. And everything in her little bubble is going to reinforce that mindset. The further we go, the more divested from reality these people become, and the more impossible it becomes to speak to.
I would agree. I will also say the thing is, we're not trying to influence them. These people that are in the bubble, that are, doing this kind of stuff, that are acting this crazy, that are this emboldened, that are this far, I don't even know if it's necessarily like far to the ideological left, but that are so like mentally warped by sort of leftist pop culture political rhetoric. You're not affecting them. They will perhaps eventually way down the line be affected once the entire culture has decoupled, divested from them, moved away from them, and then they'll go, oh shit, all right, therefore, the bubble has like completely dissolved. It's, all the oxygen has been stripped out of it, and therefore then maybe they can reintegrate. But you're not trying to influence those people. Those people cannot be influenced. Those people cannot be conversed with. They can't be debated with. They can't be talked to. They are in another reality. You can't try to making contact with them is not possible. It's not. I'm not going to say you shouldn't try, because you never know who is and who isn't. There might be some people that are like on the periphery enough that they could be shifted. And that is definitely who you're looking for. You're looking for the people that can actually move. And in this sort of stuff, that lady is basically doing our job for us. She's acting so crazy, so wild, so irrational, so like just shitty and mean that the people who are, normal functioning members of society are going to go, yeah, no, not a good look. I don't like it. Yeah, it's, it's like those are the people that I'm associating. Nah, I'm just going to kind of walk away from them. Doesn't mean I'm going to join the other side, but I'm not with them anymore. We're doing our own thing. Not with them anymore.
To them entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and you're going to see that here in the next couple clips.
Yeah.
Here's
so like that's the thing. So like I don't know, let's call it 5% of people that are as kind of like crazed as this person is. Those people are like, they're toast. They're gone. You can't deal with them. They are, they're in their own thing. Nothing you do is going to move any of that, 5% of people away from that bubble. The only thing that's going to get them out of that bubble is when all of society has moved so far away from them that the tenuous stuff that was keeping that bubble together explodes. The bubble pops, and then they go, oh shit, we are completely divorced from society. We need to shift. We need to move back. We need to try to get back into, the mainstream.
and what happened immediately afterwards.
Yeah, that's right. Walk it off.
Get out of here.
Right. Run away.
This. This.
Where's Bully McGuire when you need him? You gonna cry?
Right. So here's the thing, though, is that the cops did show up.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, after attacking me, quote unquote, Taylor decided to fight with and resist the
Oh,
police
damn.
as well.
Again, I was like, oh man, I wonder if she's gonna call the cops on them. Nope. And again, this is perfect example. Let them do our job for us, because they're so completely outside of this that like they're not even going to call the cops. They're not even going to do that. They're like, no, the cops are the bad people. Let them go. Let them do their own thing. They're helping. They're helping. Now, the people that are, in the firing line, the people that are going out and do this kind of stuff, yeah, you need to have your head on a swivel 110%, because they're just going to get more crazed. But for the rest of society, for everyone who's just watching this, people like me who are commenting on it, yeah, you're helping. You're helping out. I appreciate it.
Then made threats against us and ultimately was arrested. There was at least 10 park service vehicles over here.
That's a lot.
There's a little bit of copyrighted music here. Yeah, it sends a lot for sure. But you can kind of see what's going on. Let's give it a quick 20 seconds.
I'm humming to kind of drown out any copyrighted music.
And once again, they're emboldened by it. Like they feel like everything they're doing is in defense, because they are the perpetual victim, and everything reinforces that they are the victim. They are the freedom fighter. Everyone they're fighting against is evil, and the violence that those.
And I mean, that is another side of this, which is the sort of like the oppressor-oppressed narrative. It's like, if you're going to put all of human civilization, society, just human life into those two camps, you're basically saying, okay, like, which side are you on? You're on the oppressed side, and therefore you're always a victim. Everything you see then that works against you is always from an oppressor. And the oppressor is the evil person, the oppressed person is the good person. It's an interesting way of cooking your brain.
People receive is justified. It's an insane just like fracturing from reality, and I don't know how to fix someone who's been propagandized to this degree.
No, I don't think you
and
can.
it's frustrating.
Jail, 30 years fixes it very quickly.
I was like, I would normally just be happy that she was arrested, but I can't be because she's probably just going to be let go, have no repercussions for this.
Freedom of speech is
Maybe.
our most sacred right.
When is this? This is Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken. She might have some repercussions.
And so if you're getting it, because your society can collapse when you reward violence against speech, and if you make people afraid to speak. So to me, that should be the most protected thing that we have. It should be treated as though you murdered someone. You got in the way of that, because if you have that breakdown, if people don't feel like they can talk, that's when you get ugly things like revolutions and war and stuff like that. So to me, that's, if you can prove it, 30, 40, whatever the hell it is, life, I don't care, throw them in there. Certainly you can picket, you can rally, you can boycott, but to cause violence is ridiculous.
Yeah.
While that would be a decent idea, when you're fighting communists and Marxists and these kind of like socialist people, they're going to use your principles against you because you try to operate in reality within the framework of the law. You don't want to go against your principles. You don't want to lie to people. You don't want to do things.
And yeah, this is why I'm done. I was like, it's like, okay, violate free speech. You're going to jail. You're doing this kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, that is not going to go well because you don't want to expand the power of government. Again, it could be that, again, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, this wave of violence, all this kind of stuff basically means that the sort of far left, this stuff is never going to have political cultural power again. They're no longer part of a kind of cultural consensus that anyone would agree to. That's a possibility, and I kind of lean towards that. However, I'm still a libertarian, and I still think that, if you were to say, hey, if you violate free speech, you're going to jail, it's like, okay, I mean, that's putting a lot of power into the hands of government, which I just don't trust. And even if I did trust the current government to act perfectly justly, that doesn't, America, you're not necessarily going to have that same government in 4 years. So I don't want to put extra tools of, authoritarianism and control in the hands of people that are potentially, good.
That would be unjust or authoritarian. And so you put these rules into place to try and play by the rules, to try and make laws that make everyone get along. And the Marxists will do everything they can to exploit that. So the more protections you give for freedom of speech, they'll just be like, well, my freedom of speech is protected as well. And you can't get rid of the things that I'm saying, despite the fact that it does nothing but damage you, your family, your culture, your nation. And so it's this weird catch-22 that you're in, where like you want to have all of these protections for free speech, but protections mean that the communists are protected as well. And how do you get rid of people that will use your principles against you, up to killing you, when you can't do anything back other than play by the rules of the law? Like they're going to just keep exploiting it. They're going to keep trying to subvert your nation until they eventually get what they want, which is the total cultural takeover. So what are you supposed to do against people who don't play by your rules and always expect you to play by them?
Right. Well, what's interesting, you talk about like the propagandize, how they've been told, how bad everything is, that they're the victim, but it doesn't stop with just the college student who's been victimized the entire time. Look at this other interaction that he had literally the exact same day with
same day. Earlier.
This old guy over here.
What is a fascist?
He said, "You're all fascist," as he walked by. And to which Higby is going to respond here.
Want to know what it is? Yeah. Can you define it?
Please.
Can you tell me what a fascist is?
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on.
Yeah, why do you have to look it up? You're calling us fascists. You should be able to,
Fascist,
know what it means when you say
They
it.
think that their country is the only country, the greatest country in the world. Second,
I
they
think
want
my
a
country is the greatest
second,
country in
they
the
want a
world. It doesn't make me a fascist. I
No,
don't want a
it's not,
dictatorship.
yeah.
Shut the fuck up.
I don't want a dictatorship.
Supremacy of the military.
Yep,
You
the
agree?
military should be supreme.
Rampant sexism.
Nope, no
You
rampant
go over there and read
sexism.
that thing that
Trump's
says-
chief of staff
you
is
know
a
what
woman.
it says up there? Have you been over there to see what it says about Kirk? You know what
No.
it says? It says women stay at home, get pregnant.
Really? Because
Yeah.
Charlie Kirk's wife is running his
Here we go.
company, and Trump's chief of staff is a woman.
Controlled mass media. It's exactly
Yep, there
what
is
we're trying to
opposition
do.
media in this country.
Yeah, it's the
MSNBC,
majority.
CNN,
Kind of the majority.
Yep, the country should be secure.
Religion and government intertwined.
Yeah, the religion is not intertwined with the government in this country. We have separation of church and
Corporate
state.
power protected, labor power suppressed. This
Not true. Trump has given bigger tax cuts to the working class than
Did you
anybody
hear what
else.
happened to NPR, the state for intellectual
Yeah, we
And NPR was actually state funded.
have
So
state-funded media in this country. That's actually what fascists do.
obsession with
yeah.
So you can kind of see what's going on here. The guy calls out something, has literally no
Yeah,
idea
no-
what he's
no
talking about,
clue.
has
Is
to go to
this
Google.
guy like the Bernie Sanders, like,
He's like
Discount.
AliExpress Bernie Sanders.
yeah, like what the,
Yeah.
what is this, dude?
But he's like, it's exactly what I was saying, right? Like he calls this guy Higgins, I think you said his name was, right?
Higby.
Higby.
Higby. He's calling Higby a fascist, not because he knows what a fascist is or because Higby is actually a fascist. Fascist is a word you can use against someone that it is acceptable to commit violence against. You don't need to know what a fascist is. And he looked up the definition and used every definition of fascist to fit his worldview instead of the other way around. Because this is someone who has been completely demoralized, completely propagandized. He cannot think rationally and he cannot understand facts even when they're shown to him. So this is a useful idiot. This is someone who is very
So it's basically it's the same thing as, like 20 years ago, you would go by and you go like idiot, dumbass. That's now fascist. Fascist is just a bad word. It's just like you're a bad guy. The thing is that, there's obviously like fascist is a real thing that is definable. Dumbass is like, okay, there, it's just an insult. So when you take fascist, racist, bigot, blah, 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 all of these types of things that are definably a thing, and then they're basically utilized as an insult, you get a weird conflation of, I'm just using it to say, I don't like you, you're a bad dude. But then also there's an undercurrent of like your brain actually does have like a definitional repository of here is what words mean, and it applies that to reality. Like it shapes reality based on word use and what things mean. And therefore, if you're using this, if you're using fascist just as an insult, you're using it all the time, subconsciously, unconsciously, your brain is applying the definition, the sort of underlying historical reality, all of that type of stuff to the people that you're insulting and to the people that you're heard, being labeled as fascist, all that type of stuff. Like that's happening. And, it's not a good thing. Because again, like you're warping your view of reality to not line up with, real reality.
very useful to the regime who's trying to push Marxism and communism, because you can't have a conversation with these people. And like, yeah, we get fun sound bites and we get to understand how crazy everything is. But when you have millions of this guy running around, using language as a way to mark people for violence instead of actually understanding the words that he's saying. And again, this is by design. Like our politicians have encouraged this. Like some of them have even called people Nazis themselves. And it's like, it's getting tiresome. And I don't know how to fix things without glowing.
Well, just because I already pulled him up, I wanted to show you some more insanity here, and I know that it's gives you a tired head, Kirsha, and it's tough to see examples
It's not
like
you,
this.
and it's like, this is the stuff I watch on my own stream, and I'm probably gonna watch more of it on Friday, right? It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating that nothing's getting done. And like Sam Hyde said, that we have 2 weeks from the point of Charlie Kirk's murder to actually do something, and it's been more than 2 weeks.
It has.
Yeah.
Nothing has really happened, and so
I don't think that's true. I'm like, I actually do see some real movement. Is it, as far? Is it as much? Is it as many things as you'd like it to be? Perhaps not. But I do see some movement for real.
that's where my frustration comes from. Like, we literally saw somebody who just wanted to have conversations get killed in cold blood for his political affiliations, and nothing has happened. Nothing is being done. Nobody's trying to remove any of the cultural rot in any of our institutions.
Well, that's true. I will add, though, that we did the Antifa, making Antifa into a terrorist. I mean, that's a step.
That's a thing.
That is a step.
You're seeing a lot of the Chicago ice sprays. You're seeing a lot of that kind of stuff. I understand what she means, but I think we are seeing kind of a ramp up, moving in the right direction. The thing is that, this is the U.S. political system. It's moving slowly by design because that's the design of the U.S. system. It's supposed to move slow. It's supposed to have checks and balances. It's supposed to be able to do this. Now, that means that even if you do have something that is widely accepted by the vast majority of people, it's still slow to react, because even though, all right, everybody might agree with this thing, doesn't mean that it's, the best thing for it. It just means that everybody's ramped up for it right now. So, that's part and parcel of the system. It's a feature, not a bug.
Okay, I'll give you that one. That is a fair step. And
But I'm with you. I'm with
Mm-hmm.
you, though.
I would like to see more deployment of the federal troops to get rid of even more Antifa agents. But again, if you're arresting them, that's great. I love to see Antifa people being pushed to the ground and arrested by federal agents. Right? I love it.
Mm-hmm.
But what's going to happen to them from that point, right? Like, how many people in Antifa and Black Lives Matter got arrested during the Black Lives Matter riots in the Summer of Love?
Yeah.
Celebrities and politicians raised funds for their bail. They got released. How many actually faced repercussions versus how many people were at January 6th with like 270 something federal agents and had their entire lives ruined?
Mm-hmm. Well, again, I mean, I understand what she's saying. Looking at the history of it, looking at the sort of, hey, look what happened back then. Back then is not now. Back then is not now. There is a space for these people to actually, have repercussions for their actions, to actually face some degree of justice for their stuff. I think there's absolutely cultural support for it at this point. And certainly there is, I think, political will to try to make it happen. And I think it's a winning issue to go, yeah, we would like it so that, all of these cities are not blasted hellscapes. Yeah, we'd like to do that. I think it's a definite thing. Now, will it for sure happen? I don't know. That's something we're only going to be able to know through hindsight. But again, being sort of like blackpilled, being pessimistic about it is not warranted yet.
Well, I think all that is extremely valid. It's worth having a conversation. And speaking of like Antifa, this was very interesting to see as we saw Antifa dump red paint on an ice facility in Portland last night. And then guess what? Mm-hmm. The guy got caught. And all these guys, this is the classic. LARPing. What's the quote from Mike Tyson? Well, what's the classic Mike Tyson quote?
Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Like, everybody's a tough guy until they get punched in the face.
Yes.
Right?
Everybody has a plan.
That's what you're seeing right here. This is a good example of this. This is the guy who dumped the red paint on the ice facility last night, and he got arrested.
I fucking told you now.
Why is he painted like that?
They told him to do it.
I think he had paint on him from the red paint. But look at how, when he actually got detained Look at how he fucking
Look at like how quickly that paint got removed.
acts and quivers like a fucking leaf shaking in the wind. It's just like
He's coming down from
who
his
these people truly are.
his buzz, dude.
Literally shaking.
He's the meme.
Yes. Like
Wait, can you go back? Can we go back like 5 seconds?
Yeah.
What's he saying? I need him to speak.
What?
You turned off the volume.
Oh, you want to hear what he's saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Here.
Something about I'm just depressed. Is that what he just said?
I can't
all
tell
I
if
am.
I'm
I don't know,
just
I heard
depressed or
suppress.
I'm the press.
Oh.
It's all I am.
I thought he
Something
was
like
I'm
that.
just depressed.
I heard. But
What I
the thing
will
is, like, when he's
real fast, there's a chance.
go ahead.
It's not.
There's a I believe that this is really what they are when they're not LARPing, but there's a chance.
I agree. I don't think it's the shirt that they're wearing. And again, the fact that the paint is completely gone immediately, I am not sure that this is.
That
I
he's
agree.
been trained to do this
Oh,
to show that he looks weak and scared.
Never
so that
mind.
when media catches that,
Yeah.
these are the people that we're arresting. So it looks it's
I
basically
I could
propaganda.
see that. I could see
Oh, that makes sense.
Are they wearing? Okay, so like here's him being arrested. Oh, okay, so this happened like a day later or something like that because he's not wearing the same shirt here. Obviously, the paint's gone, so the paint washed off. So this person basically came back like the next day or something like that, and then got arrested. Okay,
40 chess.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
that could
I was like,
certainly be the case.
maybe I'm doomer pilling a bit too much here because, like,
You
yeah, you're
are.
right. You know, people are finally
know
getting
these
arrested. Antifa is finally designated as a terrorist organization. We've finally had pushback on like the cancel culture crazies where they're
Yeah.
losing their job over celebrating like
This is-
Charlie
yeah.
Kirk murder. Like, there's stuff happening, and so
You
like
do.
maybe I'm doomering a bit too much. But it's like I want.
It's understandable why. It's understandable why Kirsch is extra doomered on this. She's being a little bit extra black pilled on this. I totally understand why. Because you've been mired in it. You've been much more in it than most people, and you've had much more, personal effects than most other people. For sure. Absolutely. Completely understandable. But I think it's fair to say that it's the future is brighter than you're making it out to be.
Things to move faster. Like we saw Kangmin Lee, he lost his job for like the stuff he was posting on Twitter. And like he hasn't posted anything to my knowledge that's like anywhere near calling for violence against people. So why did he lose his job? Simply because he had like conservative opinions, which is absurd.
So I'm glad you brought that up. We're going to get to his story here in just a second as well. But I did want to close out this with just a couple more little tabs. As we saw this as well, as Turning Point USA is still going out to colleges. This took place up in the University of Washington, Bothell, where you got these people who are so emboldened over here that they, we'll see what this lady or this incredibly not
Do not agree with
totally mentally there person does.
Oh, what's this?
Fuck.
All over me.
What a good.
So
These
the passive aggressive.
What a fun-
I accidentally spilled all over your
Uh-huh.
Turning Point USA setup over
How much
here.
fun.
Totally mint.
What a like completely reasonable looking person. Like what a good look to like just walk around life.
Mentally well person adjusted right here.
Oh yeah.
They say that stuff because they know if they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. As soon as you like say that this person's crazy and they're doing something wrong and they should get arrested, everyone can be like, they apologize, they didn't mean to. Like again, it's another subversion and it's exhausting.
Yeah, 1,000%. You're 100% right. 1,000%.
yeah.
But this is exactly.
I guess, but again, I'm also like people do not like these passive aggressive, like Karen assholes. They don't like, again, like it's not a good look for them. It sucks to be on the receiving end, but I don't think it's, you know, it's not helping their side.
What you see this, oh, I didn't mean to do it, you know, and I feel like we should, you know, it's funny, James Klug, are you familiar with James Klug on YouTube, Kirsha?
No.
Okay, so James does this thing. He's known him for a little bit. Actually did an interview for him over on Plus about a year and a half ago, and he goes out and he is primarily based in California, and he goes out and he talks to people about current events, and he's extremely calm. He's willing to have open conversations. He doesn't shout people down or anything like that. But what happens is these people go out and they start making a ton of noise, and they're banging their pots around them, and they're making their noisemakers, and is woo 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 woo, and they're trying to ruin his video because he is a right-wing troll, despite just going out and literally having conversations, right? And I was like, dude, you should go out. Because what they do is they'll try to put their flags in front of the cameras and stuff to where you can't see. And I was like, you should just go out and even if you don't smoke, bring a cigarette with you, and just bring your lighter with you. And whenever they put their flags in front of you, just whoops, sorry.
I was trying to light my cigarette. I got a nicotine addiction.
Right. I would love to see a little bit of counterbalance in that perspective. You know, maybe just if you want to play the passive aggressive game, then whoops, I was just lighting up my cigarette over here, and your flag got in the way. It's not my fault; it's your fault. You know.
Like, speaking of passive aggressive, did you hear the end of that crazy person's rant as well?
Yeah, I heard
in
it.
the video.
Oh yes, the whole idea of it reminded me of Charlie Kirk's blood. Yeah, like how fucking disgusting.
I'm like, if you call her out for that because of the way she phrased it, she's gonna be like, oh well, I wasn't celebrating, I wasn't condoning it, I was just, oh, the liquid reminded me of it. That's okay. It's again using our principles against us because on paper, yeah, what she said is protected by free speech. But we know that this person or someone around her is going to be escalating to violence because that's what their entire ideology is. Can't arrest for thought crimes.
Well, we also have this as a nice way to put a pin on this segment. The Charlie Kirk Memorial Highway has officially opened in Florida. Yes, and has there ever been a highway that's changed its name so quick? I don't know if that's like this is the government actually being a little bit of a little efficient here. Yes, little efficient. So
little efficient.
And I'm sure that people will be protesting, and I'm sure this sign will have all sorts of paint and shit on it because people are fucking psycho by the time they're said and done.
It's Florida though, so
there you go.
It's Florida, so there'll be probably a little bit of a kickback here. Okay, let's see. So we did that one. I'm kind of looking here at this Asmongold one, and I think we'll probably make a video about this one. All right.
The UK got.
Let me see if I can get this together. Is Asmongold right about the UK being close to a revolution? It sure seems like it, right? The UK's a dictatorship? Wait a minute. Wasn't he saying this like months ago? And now it's even seems like he was predicting the future.
The UK government, this is new. So just for a little bit of context, there was a huge petition going on because the United Kingdom government has decided that digital ID will be implemented. Did they decide this through a vote? No. Did they decide this through an election? No. Did they decide this through a consensus of the public? No.
Sure doesn't seem like it.
That doesn't matter because progress can't be stopped. So we have right here. So basically, this is Keir Starmer, who is basically has the charisma of a wet towel and the
literally the most unpopular prime minister, I think, certainly in modern history, maybe ever.
Policies of also a wet towel. And so basically this guy is,
unless he is basically ranting about how if you oppose government authoritarianism and overreach, you are part of the enemy. Then apparently he's getting massive cheers and applause when he's using like the like Hitler cadence of speech. Yeah, that one was apparently very moving to everyone in the audience. I could barely hear him over the applause, the rapturous, nonstop clapping.
Going out there trying to push digital ID. He really wants everybody to have digital fucking ID. And so did he sentence? It's not happening right now. I mean, when it happens, I'll watch it, but it's not happening. Let me know when it happens and I'll watch it. That being said, so he decided that digital ID is necessary. And let me see here, digital.
Because, I mean, look, dude, the people that are working illegally, I mean, if they're going to work here illegally, then we need to make it more difficult for them to work here illegally. We're going to do that by making the legal requirements for people who are working legally more difficult. That makes sense to me. I mean, yeah, if you make it more difficult to work legally by introducing more stuff that people have to do to get a legal job, I mean, the people that are already breaking the law and not following the ones that require them to show, a national ID or something like that, they are clearly going to be like, oh, well, I mean, now there's a new law that I would have to break. I'm already breaking the old ones. Obviously, of course, they're going to go, oh, well, I'm just not going to come here. I'm not going to be able to work anymore. I would have to be working illegally, which I'm already doing. Why would I do that? That sounds crazy.
Oh, ID. I'm just going to UK, right? I'm just going to look at UK just so you guys get the idea of what's going on. So how many people argue with me a digital ID if you're not a criminal, right? Even Palantir is saying that UK's digital ID plan is a step too far. Imagine when you go so fucking authoritarian, fucking surveillance state that even Palantir, named after the Seeing Stones in Lord of the Rings, that was used by Sauron and Saruman to spy on their enemies and conspire to enslave Middle Earth. The company that's named after them is like, jeez, guys. Wow. Isn't this a little too far? Oh man, like isn't this, oh wow, what is this? Who is Palantir? Yeah, that's it. And so not necessarily looking too good for the UK, right? And so anyway, that's pretty much where it is. This is what political class prioritizes, want to control law-abiding citizens. Of course they do, obviously that's the goal. So and this is all, it's all being pushed in the best interest of children. And I mean, digital ID,
I mean, it's, of course, it's like, look, it's for the children. Think of the children. Please think of the children. Hey, come on. You said you don't like, migrants working illegally. So, I mean, this is for that, right? But like, they're already working. This is for migrants working illegally. Okay. If you are opposing this, you are the enemy.
it's the same as, like, if somebody cuts off your arm, you'll lose weight. And so if you're trying to lose weight, cutting off your arm will cause you to lose weight. And in the same way, digital ID will make children more safe on the internet. It will, and it will have other positive effects. There is not only negative effects of digital ID. However, the negative effects outweigh the positive effects, right? And that's really where we're talking about.
I'm actually trying to think of, like, what would the positive effects of digital ID be for the, like, normal I honestly, I'm gonna actually try to think here. What would be the positive effects? Like, okay, you can be tracked more easily. Maybe that allows you to get, like, services faster? Maybe. I mean, obviously it wouldn't in reality, because, you know, the speed of the government is not based on, you know, how well they can track you. It's based on how crappy and inefficient their bureaucracy is. But I guess maybe that's something. I honestly, like, it's hard for me to think of something that would actually be improved because of digital ID. I really can't think of anything.
about, right? That's where we're at. We're not talking about nothing. Very few things in life are binary. Some of the things in life that are binary, there's actually a lot of people who think that they're not. But anyway, that's a different conversation. The point is that now the UK government has responded to the petition, because obviously a lot of people in the UK were unhappy about this, because they were like, oh, well, we don't want the government that's arresting people for tweets using digital ID. I wonder why. And so anyway, the government has responded. There was a huge petition. It has, let me see if I can find it. UK petition digital ID. Let me just go ahead and see if I can find it. And where is it? Okay, so it's got 2.7 million signatures. Now, is that a big number? I would argue that this is in fact a big number. This is a big number. It's
yeah, so that would be, let's think, there's supposed to be 68, we'll call it 70 million people in the UK. Assuming that all of these people are in the UK, which I think they have to be to sign the petition, that would represent, let's see, what, 5%? 5% of the population? Am I completely incorrect there? Yeah, I think something around those numbers. Which means, oh no, not 5%. 2%? So I don't know. But I don't know why my math brain is not working today. But yeah, so like let's say, I don't know, somewhere between like 2 to 5% of the population. 2 to 5% of the population going out of their way to sign a petition. That's crazy. That's a huge number. That's why 100,000 is the break-even point. Is the point where it's like, okay, yeah, we actually have to consider this, because 100,000 people who are willing to sign a petition basically means that at, probably 10 to, like 20x amount of people don't agree with this, but, don't have the time or wherewithal to deal with it. So 100,000 people who are pissed off enough to go out of their way to sign this petition means that there's an enormous groundswell of people that also do not want this, and therefore would be super unpopular, and therefore you shouldn't ignore, 100,000 petitions. This is, let me think, is that 10 times, 10 million, 20, 30 times roughly the break even, the break glass in case of emergency? This is a big deal. Don't ignore this. 30 times that are saying we don't want this. And they're that pissed off about it that they're willing to spend time out of their day to navigate this crappy website that I'm sure has a whole bunch of like stuff that they have to do to actually sign the petition. So, I mean, the amount of people that went into this, went to sign the petition, and were like, okay, now I got to enter all this information. They're like, oh, I can't be bothered. I have to go out and do this kind of stuff. It's probably at least double. Probably double the people started to sign this petition and then were like, ah, crap, my kid's crying in the other room. I got to go deal with that. The amount of you do not want to mess with this is so crazy. But they're going to do it anyway.
Substantial. That's almost 3 million people. Now, what is the population of the UK? I actually don't know. Let me ask the internet.
I think it's 68.
Population of the UK. I think it's probably what, 50 million? Like, that's what I'm guessing. 69.
Okay, so 70. I was actually closer to 70.
Look at that. It's the number. 69 million. Okay, so it's more than what I thought, and I guess it's probably also counting Scotland and Ireland too, right? I mean, I would be assuming that, but maybe not. Well, no, I guess UK is this counting Scotland and Ireland also? Is it or not?
Yeah, yes? It's the UK.
Okay. All right, I just wanted to make sure, and like honestly, I still probably would have gotten it wrong, but like, yeah, okay, all right, good. Anyway, so my point is that 3 million people out of 70 almost million people is not a huge majority, right? But it is a huge majority of people that have signed an online petition and have been activated to do that. I think that it represents a larger amount. It's a mining canary. And so anyway, the government has now responded to the petition. So obviously the petition had some effect, or they wouldn't be responding to it. So let's read what the response was. Parliament will consider this.
Yeah.
Okay. If it gets more than 100 signatures, the government has responded. We will
They consider all petitions. They considered it, and they said, nah, we good.
All right. Well, there we go, guys. There it is. So I like
right away.
Isn't this like? I mean, can't they get sued for like false advertising?
No, they considered
all
it.
Petitions that get more than 100 signatures for a debate. I mean, this really isn't a debate, though, right? I mean.
Well, I mean, they considered doing a debate, and they said, nah, it's not necessary. We want to do it, man. Come on.
Fuck. Like, I mean, I feel like if you go in, this is like, for example, like Donald Trump goes into the election, you know, against like, you know, Joe Biden, and Donald Trump is like, I will be the president. Everybody claps, and that's the end of it. I will be the all right, that's it. Yeah, I'm gonna win the election. Okay, well, they can.
Hey, look, man. No, what it actually is you vote for a thing, and we go, hey, man, look, if you get the majority of the votes, we'll totally consider making you president. You got the majority of the votes. Well, we considered it. We considered making you president. But we decided, nah, we're not going to do that. I'm going to stay president. Yeah. I mean, we considered it. That's what you were voting for. It was a consideration. It's not a guarantee. We considered it. Come on.
Considered it? Well, they said it was open for debate, but clearly it's not. Anyway, so let's take a look and see what they're saying here. We will introduce a digital ID within this parliament to help tackle illegal migration, make accessing government services easier, and enable wider efficacy.
Now, here's the thing. I will also say this. I don't know why they say illegal migration. Because obviously there's two different kinds. There's immigration, people coming into your country, and then there's emigration, EM, people moving out of your country. Is the reason they're saying migration instead of immigration because they want to tackle people leaving the UK, like illegally? They're like, no. You're staying here, buddy. You're staying here. We're going to make it super difficult for you to leave the UK. Yeah. So we're going to make sure that people who want to leave have a more difficult time. I would be unsurprised. Because again, these people are actually pretty good at like making word choice to enable them more power. So I think the reason they're always saying, and I've heard this from Keir Starmer, I've heard this from everyone, migration. Always migration. Not immigration, which is the thing everyone is actually concerned about. Migration. So they want to be able to crack down on people leaving, but, you know, still let everybody in.
Efficiencies. Excuse me. We will consult on details soon. So the response to the petition with 3 million signatures of all these people speaking out, angry that their government is forcing a digital ID on them, is for the government to remind them that their votes, their opinions, their voices don't matter, and it's going to happen no matter what. This is not a good day to be a United Kingdom citizen.
It has not been a good day to be a UK citizen for how many years? For real. It is like, I mean, writing's on the wall, buddy. For real, for real. It's not a good, and I mean, you know this. Your wages have been gone down. Your ability to amass wealth has gone down. And now your government is being the most like authoritarian lunatics maybe in the world. Especially because, like, I mean, they're exporting a lot of this. Like, China is super authoritarian but I don't see China, you know, trying to do stuff that's going to get Americans arrested for, free speech, or, it's taking away their ability to watch the YouTube videos that they want to watch. Certainly they're doing that, for their own citizens, but for everybody else, not so much. The UK is. The UK is like, yeah, hey, Online Safety Act. Guess what, man? Now there's a restricted mode. There's a sweet, delicious, beautiful restricted mode on YouTube. Not because anybody in the US wanted it or anywhere else in the world, because the in UK authoritarian bullshit government decided, yeah, we want that. We're having it.
It's definitely not. And that's kind of insane. So disrespectful to their voters. Wouldn't be the first time, would it? Yeah. And so anyway, that's where we're at. The actual rulers and owners want it. Oh, of course they do. Yeah. And I think the population will accept it. I do think so. And I know people don't want to hear this, but I think the population will accept digital ID. And
obviously, look, there's a point at which people go, yeah, nope, we're done. And it doesn't have to be something big. It can be something super minor. But if you just keep pushing, and they're pushing, they keep pushing, they're going to find that line in the sand eventually, because they keep pushing. Will it be this? Will it be this digital ID stuff? I don't know. Absolutely a definite possibility that the UK does just continue to be, completely cucked out over this stuff, and will not get into anybody's face over it. We'll just go, yeah, nothing we could do about it. Keep going. All right. Yeah, but the other side of it is, eventually, nope, you went too far, and now there's going to be, people pulled out of Downing Street, and not good things will happen to them. I hope they can resolve this, peacefully. I hope they can resolve it in a democratic fashion. But this kind of stuff is pushing people to go, I don't even know if that's a consideration anymore. I don't even know if we could do that anymore. You've got so much power. You're in our lives and up our asses so hard and so far, we can't really consider that you're going to allow us to do anything. For real. Like, why would you allow us the ability to vote you out of power when you're doing this stuff? Digital ID. Nobody wanted it. So why would I imagine that my vote would count if you don't want it? Nobody, everyone wants you out. Okay, well, we considered it. And you know what? We decided we're going to stick around.
It will, and if you think they won't now, just think about COVID. Think about how many civil liberties and freedoms and rights that everybody just willingly and they were begging to give up their rights during COVID. They wanted their rights to be taken away during COVID. So all you need is an unpleasant situation, and you're going to have all of this stuff be receded in a matter of days. So that's it. They accept it because they don't understand it. Yeah, Twitch doesn't show that you're live. I don't know. I mean, like, Twitch is fucked. It's been fucked for a month now. I don't know why it has so many problems. What's funny to me about this, I just opened up my Kick fucking dashboard here, is that Kick has never had problems. I've streamed on Kick now for 3 or 4 months or something like that. It's been something like that. I guess 3 months. It's been 4 months total, but I was gone for a month. There has never been any problems. You guys on Kick have always been like there every time. Nobody's been saying, oh, I didn't get a notification. How the fuck how are they doing this wrong, man? I don't know what it is. To read Kick Chat, I tried to. I click back and forth sometimes. It's against the TOS for me to show Kick Chat on my Twitch stream, which is so stupid. It's so weird. Well, it's
very
not
strange.
Weird. It's just so Twitch can maintain another hegemony over live streaming, right? That's the reason why they're doing it. But that being said, it's very annoying that it's the case because you have conservative views. So I don't know about that. I wouldn't really go that far.
Okay.
But anyway, so yeah, why other streamers can't say kick and you can ads. Well, I don't know about other streamers can't say.
Okay, so I don't know if he's going to go into any more of this UK stuff. What I will say is the last thing that he mentioned, Asmongold says, look, the UK is going to accept this. The UK has had to accept a lot. The Online Safety Act, people are not happy about it. People are getting pissed off about it. People are getting arrested for tweets. Now you're getting the digital ID stuff. Could it be that this will be the straw that breaks the camel's back? I don't know. I'm not sure. I think as long as there is some degree of a possibility that they can vote their way out of this, they will probably try to fight it. They'll probably try to delay or fight digital ID, but they might fail and they might go, okay, well, we lost that battle. We'll just concentrate on getting reform in and we'll be able to vote our way out. If they're put into a situation where they can't vote their way out, like, hey, Nigel Farage is on track to win the election, which is currently the case. If there is some sort of like Donald Trump level lawfare where they go, okay, we're going to indict him for some this and that, and therefore he can't be up for prime minister election. He can't head the party, blah, 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 blah. Something like that. I do think there is a line in the sand. There is some point at which the UK citizenry goes, nope, we're done. Enough is enough. Asman has said it, and I'll say it too. They are on track for a revolution, civil war, however you want to describe it. They are absolutely pushing all the buttons that would enable it. And they are absolutely raising the temperature. They are putting things in the pressure cooker. They're turning the heat up. And they are saying, please, please don't notice that we're trying to blow this place up. Please don't. I don't think everyone is going to have blinders on to the fact that their lives are being destroyed. And unless they do something, it's going to continue to go downhill for them. Now, maybe that's going to be the Gary Stevenson, we need a wealth tax. We're going to have a crazy left-wing progressive government that's going to introduce, insane, communist, full communism, projects and things. We're going to have a wealth tax. We're going to be nationalizing a whole bunch of industries. We're going to be, abolishing private industry altogether. We're going to, blah, 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 blah. We're going to do something like that. Or it's going to be, hey, we've got a Nigel Farage. We're, completely taking over all kinds of stuff. We're going to be mass deporting all these types of people. We're going to be doing, all kinds of stuff like that reform wants to do. We're going to have a huge restructuring of the economy. We're going to be, destroying the NHS. All of those things are potentially going to happen. And I wouldn't have said that 5 years ago. I wouldn't have said that 5 years ago about the UK. I would have said, all right, they're going to probably, have an election like we did in the US. They're going to have a Trump and he's going to make some changes, but things are going to stay relatively the same. The UK is pushing hard for that big reset, not a soft, software. No, a hard reset, yank the power cord out, shove it back in, and, maybe you cooked your hard drive because you didn't power down correctly. That's kind of where the UK is going. Doesn't look good. I'm glad I don't live in the UK. Let me put it that way. If you do live in the UK, good luck to you in all your endeavors. It seems like you're going to need it. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and I'll say farewell for now. All right. So do we want to continue watching the rest of this? I'll watch a little bit more
I
of
mean,
this.
I stream on Kick. I stream, on Twitch. That's
He's just
the way
talking
it
about
is.
his...
I mean, if I'm gonna get banned for saying that, I mean, fuck. I might as well just start looking for another platform already. It's, I can understand.
I
Twitch
generally
not
speaking
wanting
don't watch a lot of these videos. I watch clips. I watch a ton of clips from Asman, just because they're super viral. They're always around. They're always over the place, and he generally says like relatively reasonable things that I agree with. Obviously, now he can say them a little bit more so because the cultural, Overton window has shifted to allow him to say things that he's probably always believed.
You to directly promote a competitor all the time on their platform. I think that's reasonable. To a degree, it's reasonable at least. But, what's funny to me is that YouTube allows you to promote Rumble, and Rumble is a direct competitor to YouTube, but YouTube is such a massive presence in the space that they know that they have such a monopoly it doesn't matter. So I think the fact that Twitch doesn't allow you to promote other competitors implies that Twitch knows that they are not on completely solid ground, which is a different conversation. Let me go back and talk about this, okay? I'm getting distracted. I'm getting fucking ADD'd out of my mind. So let's focus back on the fucking the digital ID. And then
Gotcha.
talk about
Okay.
the Twitch stuff after that.
I agree.
So anyway, dividing competitor, Rumble versus YouTube is on. Okay, all right. So let's move back. Anyway, we just give it fucking 10 minutes, all right, and then we'll get back to it. That being said, digital ID, I think, is the future. I think it's going to happen. I think that I think there's going to be some sort of biometric digital ID. Now, right now, I think that the first version of biometric digital ID that will be universal will be iris, like a person's eye.
Okay, so he's not wrong in the sense of the possibility. The possibility that, you're going to have digital ID, you're going to have some sort of biometric thing, you're going to have, there's going to be like scanners that, like everything's going to have like a fingerprint scanner, something along those lines. Everything's going to have a face scanner. I mean, we kind of already have that. You unlock your phone by just looking at it. So it's got face scanning, biometric stuff that exists for sure. And you've got similar things in like a China where you have the social credit score system. They're tracking your faces. And I don't know if they have like a digital ID or if it is just all through, like surveillance, that type of stuff. I'm not sure. I don't know. I think it's a possibility. Is that something that might happen? Is that something that governments are going to want to have happen? Probably. Probably, yes. Certainly places like the UK that are just inherently a little bit more authoritarian than the US. So in Australia, a lot of these, a lot of European, EU places, they have a lot of love for the state. They really do. They love the state to, step on their jiggly bits, and they love it. They go, yes, daddy, please, please authoritate me more, state daddy. They do. They say it. They love it. They want it. This has been true throughout history. However, Europe is not really leading the conversation anymore. It's the US. The UK is doing this stuff because, okay, whatever. But the thing is, just because the UK government is doing this doesn't mean that the UK people are as on board with this as the government is. And it could be, and I would hope, fingers crossed, that the UK citizens are looking at, the US and they're going, hey, you know what? We could actually get what we want. We can actually vote for some stuff and we can actually get things that we want to happen. So, like the US said with a loud, clear voice all together, no more illegal immigration. We don't want it anymore. And bing, bang, boom, Donald Trump comes in, happened. There we go. Over. Now, obviously, the problem still exists because, there's millions and millions of illegal immigrants in here. Okay, we want those people gone. Okay, I mean, that's a huge endeavor. It's going to take, an enormous amount of time. What can we actually get done? We can get rid of a lot of the criminals. Okay, doesn't solve the problem, but, it's moving in the right direction. Does that happen? It's happening. it's, again, this isn't something that you can shut down as quickly as, as legal immigration, apparently, but you can have it. So the UK is going to look at the US and they're going to say, well, we could vote in Nigel Farage. And I mean, we're on an island. It seems probably likely that it would be easier to keep people out of our island than crossing, a big, giant, huge border between, the US and Mexico. Seems like it would be, way easier to go, oh, yeah, like they have to come across on boats. We just stop those boats and we just make it so that, they're not getting on the boats. Yeah, seems like a totally reasonable thing to do. We could do it. And then, you could deport, people that are there illegally. Yeah, you could do that. But the question here is, will the UK government allow them to do that? Will it allow them to vote those things in? I don't know. I'm not sure. But again, what I'm trying to say here is that, the UK government is not really giving people the cues anymore. The cues that people are getting are from the cultural powerhouses. So it's from the US and then to a degree like China and Russia. And it's basically saying, all right, like whoever is the global superpower kind of sets the cultural tone for the rest of the world. Now, it might be that, we exist in a more multipolar world where in which, China, Russia, maybe India, and the US are all kind of like, none of them have like a true hegemony. There's just like, there's spheres of influence. I would say the UK would still be within the US sphere of influence. And therefore, whatever happens in the US is going to, trickle across to the rest of Europe and Australia. That seems likely to me. And the way in which the US is going makes me think that some of these things will get better if the UK state allows them to. But I mean, they're definitely like, they're pushing to the point where people are going to be so pissed off. They're going to be like, all right, well, we can't get out of this legally. We can't get out this through, democracy. They've basically said that's not happening. So if that's the case, then there might be some legitimate government push in the UK or something like that to say, hey, we're going to have biometric face scanners. We're going to have, just a straight up Chinese social credit score system. And they might start going through that. They already do have a ton of surveillance in like London and stuff. They don't have it as much throughout like the rest of the country, but in London, it's like crazy the amount of surveillance stuff that they have. But I will say, inevitable is never a thing in politics. And I don't think that stuff would happen in the US. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I would say that like a universal digital ID, biometric ID, something Minority Report, scanning your irises everywhere you go, seems unlikely. It's possible you might get it for like corporations. It's entirely possible that it might be like, oh, hey, like, I'd like to sign up for this credit card. Well, hey, you get a nice little bonus for this credit card if you're going to use, if you sign up for face scan technology, and that scans your face and it can feed you ads, because it monitors what stores you go to and all that kind of shit. I will also say, I don't know if that's even like useful because everyone shops online now. So, I mean, I guess I'm sure that I wouldn't be surprised if, companies wanted to do that, but I don't know if it gives them a lot of bonus, in the way that it would in like a Minority Report or something like that, where it's like you're walking through a mall. Who the hell goes to a mall now? That's not happening. You're already being tracked through all your Amazon purchases, all your, all of that digital stuff. That's already being collected. So I don't see like a carryable ID or a implantable, chip or some iris scan or these types of things being a good corporate tool to increase profits. And it seems like it would be something that would go like, all right, like if the government's trying to do this, it'd be like, no, fuck you. Like, yeah, no, like you're doing that. I'm like, no, not happening. Not happening, buddy.
And a couple of other biometric readings. I don't think that you're going to have like that Larry Ellison interview. I think that he was right in that passwords are very easily stolen, etc. And because of that, I think you're probably going to see, I hope you're wrong. Well, I'm not, you can say that. This is just what I'm predicting is going to happen, right? Like, I'm not telling you I want this to happen. I'm not saying this should happen. I'm just telling you, like, I think this is like, you know, if I say it's going to rain today, it doesn't mean I necessarily want it to rain, even though I would, because it's hot here. But you know, that doesn't necessarily mean I want it to happen. I'm just saying I think this is what's going to happen. So that being said, I think that digital ID is inevitable. I think it's inevitable. I think that too much of the population is not concerned with privacy. Too much of the population is not concerned with any sort of surveillance.
Okay, so this is an important point. He is correct. A lot of the population is not concerned about privacy. That's true. However, for things like this, a government, you know, like a big ID, digital ID, that type of thing, there doesn't need to be a lot of people unconcerned about. There needs to be everybody. There needs to be a huge swath of agreement that this is a good thing. I think there's a ton of people that are super concerned about privacy. And it can be, you know, a vocal minority could absolutely go, yeah, no, stop this from happening. Absolutely. The fact that there are a couple people that are, you know, asleep at the wheel, that's bad in some circumstances. And in some circumstances, you go, yeah, that's enough. That's enough to screw around. So like a free speech thing is a good example of this. Free speech is a universal. If not, you know, if anybody has their free speech taken away, free speech is taken away for everybody. It's just a sliding scale. It's just, you know, it's something that's going to be inevitable. It's going to inevitably be chipped away, taken away. That's going to happen. We've seen that. With something like digital ID, you need an enormous amount of universal support for it. If you have a small minority of people that are going, absolutely not, we're not doing this, well, then it can't be universal. Because these are people who are like, yeah, I'm not consenting to this. So if you have, you know, some digital ID type stuff, you can get a couple people that are, again, like, you know, they don't care. Maybe they do it. Okay. But what we're talking about is universal. This stuff, the digital ID, the UK stuff, this is like, you have to have it. Everybody has to have it. It's very different from, you can have digital ID. Like, I mean, we have digital ID. We have digital ID right now. In terms of, like, the stuff he's talking about, you have that on your phone. It unlocks your phone when you look at it. If you've got an iPhone or, like, whatever. Or it would take your fingerprint. Yeah. Okay. That's digital ID. That's biometric ID. We already have that. People consent to it in, you know, small doses here and there. People are okay with it. However, if that is then extended out to, you have to have this, then people get upset. Then people go, no, I'm not doing that. Plenty of people would have been like, look, I think a ton of people would have gotten the COVID vaccine if it had just been like, look, we were recommending this. We should have this. Everybody, you know, hey, everybody should get this. I think probably there would have been potentially more people who got it if the government wasn't forcing them to get it. I think some people definitely, you know, took it and they wouldn't have if it hadn't been forced. But I also think there's a lot of people that were like, you're forcing me to take? Oh, hell no. Absolutely not. No, fuck you. No, go to hell. You're going to try to force me to undertake a medical procedure? No, go to hell. Absolutely not. I'll happily get fired. You know, I'll sue your ass. That would be the response, certainly in the US, if someone was trying to make digital ID mandatory as opposed to voluntary.
A lot of people don't care about it. They're going to rationalize it by saying that everybody has camera phones everywhere and that the government can look your stuff up anyway. And so it's normalized in their mind. And also that you need licenses to do other things in real life. And as the internet becomes more like real life and an extension of real life, it would be logical that you would need a license to use the internet as well. That's going to be what they're going to use. That's going to be how people are going to think. And I guarantee you this is what's going to happen. Clip it and wait in fucking, I would say 6 years, but I think probably 6 months is better. People are going to be making these same arguments. That being said, and getting into all of that, I do think this is going to be problematic. And I think that the core problem with the UK is not necessarily this in itself, it's the laws that this helps enforce. And what I mean by that is that the UK has a bunch of speech laws that prevent people from speaking their mind and giving any feedback or criticism.
And that's the thing. That would be, I think, the main concern here, is that digital ID is a nice way to sneak in a way to, extra enforce the Online Safety Act. Because a lot of the Online Safety Act is, you can't... some of it is the stuff that they were talking about, where like, we want to make sure that minors don't access, bad information in terms of like, pornography and that stuff. And you'd go, I mean, okay. But then they also have stuff in there where it's like, okay, like anyone who's talking about like climate change stuff or mass migration or blah, 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 all of these like political issues. That's the same thing. Okay. And then they also have speech laws where it's like, you can't insult people. You can't say anything that makes people upset. Okay, so you'd go, all right, the UK is gearing up to make sure that when in 2 years or 3 or 4 years, when there might be an election, they have the tools to make it so that you can't vote your way out of this. You cannot vote reform in, because we've got everybody tracked by digital ID. We've got a whole bunch of speech laws, and we're going to say, you know what? Reform is like a terrorist organization. And if you vote for a terrorist organization, or you say you support a terrorist organization, we've got laws against that. You're being tracked through your digital ID. You don't have the right to, say you support something because it's against the speech laws. And therefore, we're just going to basically arrest you. And we're going to say, you can't vote in this next election. I mean, that's a scary scenario. And I would say, God, there's no way. The UK is making me think, that's the least of your worries. That's absolutely something they're like trying to do, probably. I could totally see that. Yeah. Clip that and tell me in, 2 years or 4 years in the next UK election, if they are starting to do stuff like that. Let me know.
To the government or to any sort of, religious group or minority group in a way that is considered hate speech. And so the real problem, people are already getting arrested for posts on the internet, right? So it's not like this is going to change a whole lot, but obviously it's not good either. No. What I think is going to happen is, I think this will basically put that
Elder Scrolls music going crazy
on steroids. It's going to make whatever the enforcement is already, it's going to probably 3 or 5 or 10x that enforcement. Probably. And it's going to make it that much easier for them to do.
And it won't even be, and it'll be literally like, hey, you have to have your digital ID. The other side of the digital ID stuff is they can just turn off. If they're saying, hey, look, you need a digital ID to work. Well, that means there's probably like an on-off code for, hey, you're allowed to work here. So you have the digital ID, you go to sign in, and you go, no, you can't work here anymore. We just, we didn't fire you. The government turned off your ability to work via digital ID because you said something against, grooming gangs. And that's illegal because it's Islamophobic or something.
So that's pretty much where things are going. Digital ID, I think, is an inevitability in the UK. And this is the reason why I think that it's so important for them to try to push back and stop the government from doing this. Because also, like, I think the UK government...
Now, the other side of this is, okay, so he did say, okay, he only just said this. He said it's inevitable in the UK. Okay, that's a different deal. Inevitable in the UK as opposed to just inevitable everywhere, because obviously he's US. He's a US citizen. So he's working in the US, he's living in the US. I tend to think in terms of the US, when he says something's inevitable, I think he means it's inevitable everywhere, including and probably most specifically in America. That's where I go, I don't believe that. In the UK, I'm way more amenable to that idea.
Government is, I mean, I don't live in the UK, so like maybe I'm just speaking about this from a third party. I don't know what I'm talking about, but like from what I'm seeing, they look like it looks like a shithole, right? It looks like a complete shithole. It looks awful. So wouldn't this make people push back even harder then? No, because there's not enough of them. I understand that there are some of them, but I think that the digital ID is such a soft form of oppression that a lot of people won't even feel it. And I think that you compare that with, for example, migration, mass migration, or, you know, the amount of illegal immigrants, the boats and all of that stuff. That's something that's much more easily seen. And I think that now, because it's been more prevalent in that culture, that it's easier for people to define an effect that it has. And this is what the difference is between that and this. So yeah, do you think the push for real ID can fail? Do you think that it can fail? Is there a universe where it can? Yeah, but it's a Doctor Strange 1 in 54 million universe. I think that it's almost inevitable. And I don't really, I wouldn't bet on it failing. I would bet on it failing maybe first 2 times. I wouldn't guarantee it's going to succeed the first time, but I guarantee that it will succeed within 5 or 10 years. Does that make sense? And I think that there will be continued pushes for digital ID.
Okay, so this assumes that things stay the same. They keep going in the same direction. And I think there is a legitimate argument for this is kind of as bad as things can get in the UK before they have to change. There's an argument to be made for like, hey, like we want things to get worse because it's the only way things are going to change. It's the only way things are going to, people are going to be willing to suffer the pains that are going to come with real substantive change. Again, I keep pointing to Milei in Argentina and these types of things. Things were really bad in Argentina. And they had to be really bad for Milei to get elected and have the enormous change that he introduced to the country. So it could be that, you know, again, the digital ID stuff, that's pushing things further to that point of we have to change. We have to change. We have to change immensely. And if that means that we have to suffer even a lot, we'll do it. We're happy to do it. The US is basically there. Things didn't get as bad as they could have. But, you know, the US basically said, yeah, we're happy to do tariffs. We're happy to, you know, like if prices for some things go up, we don't want that to happen, but we understand that it's a worthwhile investment. Suffering something now short term gives us better long-term advantages, better long-term futures. We'll do it. We're fine with that. And again, we didn't get to a point where we, you know, needed to suffer insanely unduly. The UK is in a worse position. They need more recovery and they need more sort of like movement towards freedom because they've gone further in the sort of authoritarian sense, and they've also gone further in the living standards dropping sense. The US was like, you know, because it was better off anyway in both of those things, it's, you know, it moved negatively in those things, and they went, okay, that's bad. We want to reorient. And therefore, you know, we had less distance to travel. The UK has got a lot more distance to travel. And that means that, you know, the journey is going to be more painful and probably take longer than the US did. But I do think it's likely they will get there if, again, they're allowed to. Could be that, again, I mean, the worst case scenario here would be digital ID and whatever new stuff Starmer starts to introduce is basically a prelude to making it so that the UK citizens cannot legally get their way out of it. They can't vote in Reform or Nigel Farage or some, revolutionary, I shouldn't say revolutionary, some real force for change, substantive, significant change.
And soft forms of it will become more and more encompassing over time, because once you get your foot in the door with something like that, then all you have to do is expand its functionality, and then it affects everybody. So that's what I think is actually going to happen. What do you guys think about that? This will help eliminate bots in video games? It will. Yes, it will. And so that's pretty much
Hi, Fireshard.
the way I
What's
think
going
things
on?
are going. They say it's for combating migration. Why don't they only ID the migrants? Well, sometimes you don't know who the migrants are, right? Like there could be a brown person in the country and they could have lived there for 3 generations. I mean, it's not a guarantee that every brown person is an immigrant, but or a migrant, excuse me. I would say they probably all pretty much are immigrants, because Europe and England is primarily Anglo-Saxon ethnicity.
Yeah.
But, they could be like fucking immigrants from like the 1900s, right?
That's so unlikely. 3 generations, 2 generations, I think. Because again, I saw a chart that was basically like, I think it was 1950 or 1960, something. Maybe it was right after the war, 1940, like 1949, 1950, something like that, where it was like 99.3% of London, not the UK, London, the most like super duper multi-ethnic city in the UK, was like 99.3% bright, the British white. And now it's like, 37% or something like that. So it's not, I don't think it's the case that there's people that have been living in the UK for, like 5-10 generations and they're like Pakistani or something like that. It's not to say that, they couldn't have been here for, 2 or 3, but there's not that many people that have been living there for so long that they have been completely enculturated with the UK, British, English values and these things. It's not to say that there aren't some, for sure there are, but that's not the people they're talking about. They're not talking about those people. They're talking about the people that are like, oh yeah, they came from wherever and now they're living in, Islamic ethnic ghettos in London, where it's like, yeah, they all speak, whatever language they spoke in their, native country. They are living their life as if, they're in their native country. Those are their values. That's the culture they're living in. And they don't want to change. They have no desire to change in any way, shape, or form. Those are the kinds of people that they're concerned about. And, reasonably, understandably.
So it's a big difference. They could stop the boats for starters. Yeah, I think that would be a really good start.
Yep.
But anyway, the migrant and its excuse to give up privacy. You're right, and I am becoming increasingly more conspiracy pilled. I am, and what's really,
I mean, for the UK, it's very reasonable, because again, it's like obviously there's no explanation for this, the digital ID stuff, that actually lines up with what they're saying. It's just not the case. There's no way they're doing this to combat illegal immigration. Like working illegally in the UK. They are not. It's clearly not going to work because the people that are working there illegally already have things that they're supposed to do to verify who they are and that they're a British citizen. They're just not doing that. They're working illegally. If you introduce this thing, it's like, oh, okay, it's a different law that I have to break. they're already doing that. They're already breaking a law to work. Why wouldn't they just continue doing that? Of course they're going to continue doing that. So to say that, it's a conspiracy, it's like, no, it kind of seems like it's just obvious that they're doing this for a reason other than what they're saying.
This is what's so crazy, is that I wish my mom was still around. Well, I mean, for a lot of reasons. Mainly 2 reasons, because she made a really great pot roast. And the other reason is so she could see that all of her fucking conspiracy theories and the crazy shit that she would believe is actually happening. It's actually happening. And I was like, there's no way they're gonna do this. There's no way this is gonna happen. I would argue with her whenever I was a kid. I was like, there's no way they're gonna try to push like gender ideology on kids. There's no way this is gonna happen.
Jeez.
Like,
Picked a losing battle there, buddy.
Watch this video, and like the thumbnail of the video is like Obama with like a lizard face, and there's laser beams coming out of his eyes, and he's destroying like a white family's house. And so like I just assumed that this video was wrong, right? But
turns out yeah.
Man, no, she was a big Mike believer. She was. Like every crazy, like she knew more about conspiracy theories than Alex Jones. I'm literally not even kidding, because she was an academic. She had multiple college degrees. She was a writer. She has probably, if you took the combined weight of every book that she has in this house, it would be heavier than a car. Okay, like it's insane. And so she knew all David. Oh no, she knew about David Icke in like 2003. I was hearing about David Icke whenever I was in middle school. Okay, guys? So, oh yeah, this isn't even something new or anything like that. What car? It could be a bus, all right? It's a lot of them. And digital forms another form of globalization and thereby the destruction of society. Digital ideas, I don't think that's, I see your point of view, but I think it's about the utility of it, right? Because I think you can have globalization without digital ID, and you can also have digital ID without globalization. Like South Korea is a great example of that I would use. For sure. But overall, I see your point of view. And also, whenever all of these things are happening and you have the WEF and all that stuff, I recognize the trepidation. But yes, that's basically what I'm saying. You're right about stages. They'll put digital ID for porn access, then people will cave in, and then it'll come in forms of general access. I think that porn access will actually be a tougher, nut to crack, for lack of a better metaphor, than you might imagine.
They're already doing it.
There's a lot of people that want to keep their porn history and everything very, very private. So I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. Now,
again, UK versus US. They're already doing that in the UK, aren't they? I feel like they're already doing that in the UK. So yeah. And again, this is the difference between the UK government and the US government. The UK can do these things, and there's very little recourse. If the government actually wants to do this kind of stuff, the people don't really have nearly as much of a recourse as they would in the US. So it's entirely possible. It's entirely like, yeah, okay. You wanted this? And I was like, well, you voted for this government, so you're getting it. And there you go. That's the thing.
Now, it might happen. I don't know, but it's not something I would necessarily guarantee. I don't know about that. And UK was just the beginning. If it isn't pushed back, and the rest of the world will follow soon. Well, no, what you're not understanding is that the UK isn't the first domino. It's like the 5th or 6th. There's a number of countries that already have a form of digital ID to begin with. I just gave the example of South Korea, for example. So no, I don't agree with you on that. I don't think that's true. I think
yes, it's a different thing though. There's a large cultural difference there. The reason you'd look to the UK is because they are of a Western, liberty-minded, how can we say this? More individualistic, less communitarian culture. And therefore, this is a culture that's much more happy to prioritize individual freedom and liberty at the cost of, like, you know, community, togetherness, security, these types of things, as opposed to a Japan, a South Korea, these types of things. They are much more communitarian minded, and therefore, you know, just culturally speaking, they're much more willing to go, okay, I'll sacrifice a little bit of something of myself for the betterment of everybody. So the UK is like a fundamentally different deal than South Korea getting digital ID.
Think that the fact is this has been a global push that's been going on for the last 10 years, and the UK is the first. You're right about this, that it's the first westernized country that, or Western country, that is adopting this in a serious way. That part is true. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So the UK has,
and it is also different because of that, the, you know, South Korean government, Japanese government, these types of things, if they are doing that stuff, they, you know, as sort of the politicians in control of that stuff, they also have that same communitarian mindset. They have a mindset that is much more, I am doing something for the good of my people. And they are much more likely to go, even if you have the tools to, you know, oppress your people, you're kind of less likely to do it if you think it would be bad for them. Now, you might be more likely to do it if you think it's good for them, but there's like a little bit less of a, you know what, if it's good for me to oppress them, I'll do it. In the UK, I don't think, like, how many politicians do you actually think, if they could guarantee that they would win every single election for the rest of their career, and all they had to do was, you know, be corrupt and, you know, oppress their constituents, their citizens, wouldn't do it? The number would be vanishingly small. There are a couple, but they would be very, very few and far between. The vast majority of them would be like, yeah, absolutely, I'll oppress the shit out of them. Absolutely. It's going to be better for them. I was like, I don't care if it's better for them. It's going to be better for me. It's going to be better for me. Look, it's my career. It's why I'm doing this.
Has responded, and the response is that the beatings will continue until morale improves. The debate has already happened. You've lost categorically because you can't vote. That's it. All right, great. Doesn't Australia already have this? I'm not familiar enough with Australia's like laws to really have an opinion on that. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I just don't really pay a lot of attention to it, if you want me to be honest with you. So I don't know. And but South Korea probably isn't going to use it for hunting down normal people on X. Actually, South Korea used geolocation on somebody's phone with push notifications that you had to respond to during COVID in order for them to track your location at all periods and times to make sure that you didn't leave your house whenever you weren't supposed to. So guys, totalitarianism and authoritarianism is not a idea in a book. It's only like 3 weeks away. Yeah. Every horrible thing is 3 weeks away. Keep that in mind. 3 weeks, maybe if it's really bad, it could take a month. Other than that, yeah, COVID was a red pill. It was. And so, no, I don't agree with this at all. They'll say kids' safety. Oh, yeah, no, it's, but the real safety that they're trying to ensure is the government's.
Oh, yeah. That's accurate. That's true. All right, so we checked this guy. Again, let's continue with the UK. Let's not continue with the UK stuff. I want to check this one. The breaking down the major flaws in viral political violence study conservatives are calling out. Now, I'd mentioned this earlier today. I don't know if I'm going to make a video about this. I guess I will record. No.
Rachel, I want to just go back to you for a moment about a letter you threw together on that Cato Institute study. Almost everyone who was online after what happened to Charlie Kirk saw this Cato Institute study that claimed right-wing political violence was more prolific over the last 50 years. It started in 1975 than left-wing political violence. And obviously just that starting point of 1975, choosing to use the last 50 years and to start in 1975 is probably already setting off alarm bells for a lot of people who saw the study. But Rachel, you are actually rallying other conservative groups to push back, to ask Cato to retract the study that was put out by one of their vice presidents, we should add. Tell us a little bit, give us a little bit of background, because as you dove into it in this letter, it was a pretty thorough fisking of the data.
Yeah, I mean, people may be familiar with this study because, of course, as soon as the Charlie Kirk assassination happened, all of these groups were quick to put out, well, this is, this might be an instance of left-wing violence where they acknowledged it at all, but right-wing violence is the one that's really on the rise. And joining this chorus was the Cato Institute, who put together a study under the the person who did it was Alex Naraste, who is a vice president at the Cato Institute. And he put out this study with the lead claim that right-wing violence is on the rise. And normally it's like, okay, a tree falling in the forest. But this study was picked up on by Time magazine. It was tweeted out by Ian Bremmer because it fit the narrative that the mainstream media was trying to perpetuate, which is that, oh no, it's the right wing that are the baddies. But if you start to peel back and look at this study, it is, and I say this, in all sincerity, a dumpster fire.
Yeah, it's not good.
It is.
I'm guessing this is the same one that I mentioned earlier, which is like, like they mention, like they include like white supremacist, prison gangs. And they say that's right-wing political violence. It's like, no. That's ridiculous. That's prison violence. It's gang violence. It has nothing to do with right-wing political violence. It's not that at all. It's just, it's gang violence. Okay. And if you were to use the same, and then the other side of it is you don't use the same, qualifications for, left-wing political violence because you don't include left-wing leaning gang violence where you'd go, oh, okay, well, what about like the Black Panthers or like this type? It's like, well, or like not even the Black Panthers, like the Bloods and the Crips. They tend to lean left. Okay, did you include any of that stuff? Did you include any of like, I don't know, like, like MS-13, their left-wing political violence. Did you include? No, of course not. Of course you didn't include any of that stuff. So you're not even including it. So like just the complete misrepresentation of the data, and then also including stuff in the data that absolutely doesn't say what it's supposed to.
Work of research and just as an empirical fact, it is all over the place. It pulls from some insane sourcing, including the Southern Poverty Law Center, which had put, Charlie Kirk on its list of hate groups shortly before he was murdered. The Anti-Defamation League and a host of other sources.
Which also included Charlie and
which also
wrote about him being hateful,
But it also just made bizarre choices. For example, he decided to, as you mentioned, he started the study in 1975 after all the Weather Underground violence of the left, but he chose to leave out the 3,000 deaths from 9/11 and the World Trade Center attack because that might, dominate the data. But he did include the Oklahoma City bombing, which killed 168 people, and classified it as right-wing violence. He made a lot of other bizarre choices. He left out the Waukesha Christmas massacre in Wisconsin, where again we know was motivated by left-wing reasoning. And he also includes things like,
oh my God,
the killer who went on this misogynist shooting spree of sex workers and had no obvious or documented political reason to do this. He had a mental health issue, but Alex just throws that in the right-wing category because why not? So it's a lot of choices like that. And, people with other, backgrounds sort of went through it and showed that he left out so many other instances of violence, just didn't include them at all.
Like or miscounted some of them. It was crazy.
Some of them he miscounted the number of victims. And so, ordinarily, again, this wouldn't necessarily rise to the level of the conservative movement saying like, hey, buddy, stop doing this. But the Cato Institute is, at least affiliated with the right in many cases, not on every issue, but Alex.
A lot of conservative thinking donors, right? You would know this. People who probably give to all kinds of different conservative groups, they get swayed by development people who say this is going to get your taxes lower, it's going to deregulate, it's going to push deregulation, all that.
I was going to say, that's what I thought the Cato Institute was leaning towards. I'm glad that they are confirming
stuff.
Yeah, and their analysts are frequently called by Republican members of, witnesses on committee hearings. And this is something where it's one, an incredibly poor research product, just as a matter of scholarship. But two, again, in addition to being a poor product, you are contributing to an overtly false narrative that is putting other Republicans at risk. I'm sorry, like one of the signers of this letter calling for the study's retraction is Tony Perkins, who is the head of the Family Research Council, who that group, over 10 years ago at this point, because they were put on the SPLC hate list, a man with a gun walked into their lobby with the intent to shoot up the entire building. And thanks to the heroic actions of their security guard, he only shot the guard, right? And the guard managed to take him down. But you cannot perpetuate this lie. This is what is getting people killed. And so we've asked Cato to pull the study back. No response yet, obviously.
No response.
Well, so this was a day ago, might have been. Let me see if this says when this was recorded. I'm not surprised if the Cato, Institute doesn't withdraw their study or, make any of these types of things. And even if it does, it's meaningless because it's completely meaningless because essentially what they're going to do is they're going to down the line issue a retraction for like something somebody said on page 6. After it's completely out of... So people are going to continue saying, oh, yeah, like right-wing violence is on the rise. It contributes. It's like 76% of all political violence, all that kind of shit. And it's just like, nope. Like, that thing was retracted. No, I don't believe you. Let me see. And like, they'll try to find it. And even if you use like AI or something, the first results that are going to pop up are going to be the major news articles that quote this initially. The buried retraction will like barely, you'll really have to hunt for it. And then people won't believe it. They'll just be like, no, you made that up. That's photoshopped.
That's super interesting.
Can I add something to Rachel's excellent layout of the facts of this like atrocious study? Honestly, they should be embarrassed about this study just on the basis of scholarship quality. It's a shonda. It's a shame. Like they should not have put out this study with so many errors and relying on sources that they themselves in the past have criticized. Right,
which is hilarious.
Partisan product, and it does show to. I guess libertarians are also a little bit infected with this leftist idea. I would call it a fetish, really, for putting their partisan sort of suppositions into bar graphs or pie, or quote unquote objective.
That is a fetish.
As though that like actually changes the fact that you're making a partisan argument if you make it a bar like or a bar chart, that's somehow different. You see that with the graphs about fascism is directly increasing on the Republican Party, right? And
It's
there's
like
the line that goes up.
It's like when people walk into a meeting,
right?
When people in a meeting walk in and they're like, see, I've made this Venn diagram.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's like, oh, a Venn diagram.
Yes. This must be objective. It's serious.
Yeah.
Well, I love Venn diagrams.
No.
So.
See?
But the other part of this, of course, and the more important part, honestly, to me, than the tallying up of how many often, like it's often hard to categorize motives. Sometimes it's not, but it is often difficult to categorize motives because you are dealing with people who are a population, to say the least. Not always, by the way. I don't think, for example, the shooter, Charlie Kirk shooter, falls in this category. I think he's very, very clear about the ideological motivation.
I think I'm going to agree with what she said.
And we shouldn't say that ideological hatred, right, is in itself a mental illness. I think that's the wrong way to go down the road. But there are people involved in these shootings frequently have other issues going on, or they have garbled politics, right? So actually, more than the tit for tat, who has more violence, I think the more important metric is, are institutions or elected officials, right? Are they endorsing this in some way? Are they excusing it? Or to use Molly,
there's a lot to be said for that. That is a really good point. That's a super good point. Like not like that. Plus, I would also say, who's celebrating the violence? Like when somebody does get killed, when somebody does get, assassinated like Charlie Kirk does, what is the response? Is the response horrible condemnation? Oh my God, this is awful. Or is it, yay, this is great. We're so happy about it. This is fantastic. if there's a huge amount of people that are celebrating that kind of thing, you'd go, oh, okay, that should set off alarm bells more so than the person himself getting shot. Because you'd go, all right, well, like maybe that person's crazy, maybe that person, has an ideological bent, but is also, a little bit unhinged. Maybe it's just purely for ideological reasons. But if it is for purely ideological reasons, the person that, the people that have that ideology as well, how many of them are going, well, yeah, I agree with what this person said, but I can't, like I would never do something like this. I would never support something like this. If on the other hand, the people that, align with that ideology are going, this is great. Well, then hell, I mean, that's really, that's telling that they are actually probably going to try to do more of this.
Hemingway's great phrase, are they creating this sort of permission architecture for
Mm.
this? And this is where the point about Asada Shakur, we were talking about Kimmel
Mhm.
earlier on, right? He had Public Enemy on in his comeback show, right? What's the shirt the guy is wearing, right? It's R.I.P. Asada. It's the other guy, Mumia Al-Jabbar, I think, but he was responsible for killing police officers in Philadelphia, in the 80s, right? So another cop killer. So
but of course he's going to comfy late night television studio with security.
Yeah. Well, this is direct endorsement of political violence. So is the fact that Angela Davis continues to, tour college campuses in 2025.
Wasn't it like the Vladimir Lenin Prize for Peace that she won? I have to remember the horrible name of it, but she went to the Soviet Union to accept it in the 80s. Do you remember? And as you would remember this.
Yes. She did accept that. I don't remember the name of the award, but that sounds about right? Like this is like,
I want a Lenin Peace
vegetarian
Prize.
award for best barbecue kind of situation. The Lenin Award for Peace. But yeah, Bill Ayers obviously famously was Obama's mentor. There has been
Susan Rosenberg,
right,
who bombed the Senate.
Right.
Now raises money for Black Lives Matter.
It's ton of left-wing violence in the 70s. By the way, something that Rachel points out in the letter she's circulating, this study conveniently leaves out all of that 70s leftist violence as well, and chooses a start date that exempts 9/11 somewhere in the middle, but right after the waves of violence from the left in the 60s and 70s. But the point is not even the tit for tat. I think we have a good argument on the tit for tat. Don't get me wrong. But the point is, how is this being treated by mainstream organs, either of the party or of media or people who are actually supposed to be responsible with their public presence? And the reality is that the left has institutionally accepted political violence. They praise political violence on university campuses. They invite politically motivated terrorists who have conducted bombings into, lauded positions with nice sinecures and allow them a position of teaching young people, right? There is no comparison to that on the right.
No,
okay? Nobody is inviting Uncle Ted. Okay,
right?
Who's
not even really on the right. Who's not even really on the right.
Yeah, this is true. These are all good points.
From the 90s, like somebody who was running around with Timothy McVeigh and putting them in a position at Hillsdale. Like it doesn't happen.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah, it doesn't.
There's no right-wing media prize for Oklahoma City bombing, political violence.
Right.
And that is what the left does every day. And Jimmy Kimmel just did it after saying, no, I disavow political violence, but I should be able to make a joke, which was not the problem. The problem is not the joke. The problem is that you repeated false information about the assassin, right?
That does make me... actually, this is a suggestion that I have. Inez get the David Koresh Chair for Political Studies at Bob Jones University. That's my idea.
Bob Jones is not ready for Inez. That's all I'm saying.
They're not. Well,
actually, I was at Regent recently, and I found out that I'm one of the more right-wing people at Regent University.
It's time for you to join a megachurch. The water is warm.
Okay, calm down.
Okay. I mean, yeah, those are very good points. Those are very good points that, I mean, again, that's kind of what we're talking about here. It's not necessarily is the violence on one side? And I mean, obviously, look, if it was, it wouldn't matter because, I mean, the left wing currently is clearly the case that, it's left wing is doing most of the violence right now. I don't think you could make any argument that that's not the case. And this is just, more confirmation of that, where you go, any of the studies that they're showing, you're like, nope, it's a bad study. Very clearly, all of these instances are bullshit. And you should be able to see that if you read the study. You didn't read the study. You just basically heard somebody say in an abstract that, oh, it's right-wing political violence is what's happening. It's not happening. But let's say that it was the case. Let's say that it was the case that, right-wing political violence was in an upsurge. If you're not seeing people celebrating it on the right, and I would hope you wouldn't, but if you weren't seeing that, you'd go, okay, well then maybe these people that are, doing this right-wing political violence are simply just, there's just been a big crop of crazies, and this is just a statistical anomaly. Because that could absolutely be the case. As opposed to on the left, if you're seeing this stuff, and we are that we are seeing, you're seeing that matching up to people celebrating it, huge amount of political violence rhetoric on the left, directed towards the targets for these, political violence on the left. You can make, a rational argument that says, yeah, this follows this. It's not that, there's this weird statistical anomaly of, okay, we just had a whole bunch of, we just had a rash of crazy people doing stuff, and we don't know why, and it just so happens to be, aligned with some, left-leaning political ideology. Okay, but it could just be a statistical anomaly. That's a possibility. But if you see everybody going, yeah, no, this is great, we want this, we've wanted this forever, well then shit, you kind of have to probably give more credence to the idea that, no, this is political violence. This is political in, this is politically motivated. I think that's reasonable. I think that's a good point. We already did this guy. I want to check. Okay, now I want to check this stuff.
Hey, noble ones, welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking, and yes,
I may or may not get through this whole thing. I'm getting a headache.
Yes, we do live in a dystopian reality, don't we? So apparently,
Yeah.
I can't even pronounce it. Keir Starmer has got something to say to you. All right, Mrs. Starmer, convince me that this is a good idea.
I love and have pride in my country, and I want to serve the whole of our country, our beautiful, tolerant, diverse country, and I want to serve the whole of that country. And I was arguing against Reform because Reform do not believe in that country. They want to tear that country apart. What was said last week about deporting migrants who are lawfully here, who've been here for years, working in our hospitals, in our schools, running businesses, our neighbours, and Reform say they want to deport them. That would tear our country apart.
Did they say that?
We are at the moment a leading member of the coalition of the willing, corralling and bringing together European countries to fight the aggression of Putin. Imagine if Reform came in and they were cozying up to Putin,
But
and
on
the
that
impact
policy
that would have, on our security and defence. And that's why I say to my party, and my main message to this conference is, this is a different fight. It is a fight about the future of our country, about who we are, what patriotism is, and what we stand for in our place in the world. It's a fight we must be in.
Oh, I hate that he just won't let us speak.
It's really annoying.
You know what? I'm gonna let you finish. How much? 3 seconds? I've got 15 things to say. Let's go.
And it's a fight we must win, and I'm absolutely determined that we will.
All right. Thing number one, you could see how he would not even just answer her questions, but even let her speak.
Yeah.
He won't let her finish the question. Why? Because clearly what he's doing now is rehearsed. Yeah, a lot of politicians do that, by the way. This is a prepared, scripted message. And he doesn't care about what she has to say. He only cares about cameras are rolling. This is the message. These are the words I'm going to say, and you will listen. So that's the first thing.
I gotta get through it because I can't remember this stuff.
Right there.
I love and have pride in my country, and I want to serve the whole of our country, our beautiful, tolerant, diverse country.
I love it how, like, in 7 seconds, he used already 3 buzzwords just to signal, virtual signal. That's exactly what that was. Of course, this is here because of that. Beautiful, tolerant, what did he say again? Beautiful, tolerant, diverse country. Well, here's my first comeback to you, Mr. Starmer. Since you can't speak over me, I can pause you at will. Politicians, am I right? Here's my first rebuttal to you, Mr. Starmer. How about your own people? I am sick of fake tolerance. You are not tolerant. The people that like you cannot.
And I mean, this is 13 hours ago, but dude, I mean, I don't know if it came out after this. I think it came out after this interview. He's literally saying like, hey, half the country that disagrees with me, you're literally the enemy. You are the enemy.
To be tolerant. In fact, the very people that talk about tolerance are the most intolerant of all. We have seen this. We've seen hundreds of thousands demonstrate this. It's all about tolerance. We need to be tolerant to people. And then they laugh at Charlie Kirk dying on the floor. The tolerant people. Insane how a word that initially had such a nice ring to it has now become a red flag. It is a red flag because the very people that say tolerant will dance on your grave for your opinions. Second, Mr. Starmer tells us about how diverse the country is, right? Because diversity is what they really want. Fixated with diversity, in fact. They want diversity of ethnicity, diversity of representation, sexual diversity, gender diversity, social diversity, cultural diversity. It appears to me, Mr. Starmer, that you and your ilk want all forms of diversity, except of thought.
Yeah.
However, the part that I like the most is this.
I love and have pride in my country, and I want to serve the whole of our country, our beautiful, tolerant, diverse country, and I want to serve the whole of that country.
I love that he has to, like,
arguing against reform.
Right.
Count it out.
Okay, are you beautifully tolerant to the good men and women from your own f***ing country? You know, and at this point, children with swords and axes. Do you care about those?
What was said last week about deporting migrants who are lawfully here?
If this was true, because I don't believe a word he says, and he did not bring, he said, what was said last week? Yeah, by who? Who said it? Who said what? This is the most generic statement ever, but whatever. Let's say that someone did say that. Yeah, that would be wrong. If someone is a legal immigrant, for instance, myself, no, you shouldn't deport legal immigrants. I don't think that's what people are annoyed by. I think the people that you are despising
Seems like it.
are the ones that have a problem with illegal immigration. Why don't you talk about that? Because I think the majority of people will agree with you. Once someone has entered a country through the legal channel and the correct process, and they've been living in the country for years and are working as doctors and nurses and all the rest. Yeah, they are legal. You don't deport legal immigrants. But the problem are not the legal immigrants.
Absolutely.
Corralling and bringing together European countries to fight the aggression of Putin.
That's the shifting of the goalpost.
This is a different fight. It is a fight about the future of our country.
Unbelievable. The future of his country says.
About who we are as patriots. What patriotism.
Patriots. He used the word.
Yeah.
This is the least appropriate man to use that
It's
word
really good.
in the entirety of the United Kingdom.
Is and what we stand for in our place in the world. It's a fight we must be in.
Yep.
It's a fight we must
Come on, I got to get through this speech. I can't remember it all if I don't do it in one thing. It's a minute long, all right? I have a 60-second speech here. I have to get through it. I have to do it. Come on. You're trying to ask questions and interrupt me. I need to do it. I got the script. I have it in my head. I can't think on my feet. Okay? Just let me do it. Come on.
What about this, though? You're mansplaining to a woman who's trying to speak to you. What about feminism, Mr. Starmer? Is she below you because she's a woman? Is that what you're trying to do?
Is that immoral? But for many, but on that policy, is that immoral?
Mr. Starmer, just shut it and let the woman speak. Okay, so anyways, the real item of conversation today is this. BBC.co.uk. Starmer... Thank you. Starmer to announce plans for digital ID scheme. I actually think for once, I hated BBC, but for once they used the correct term to describe it as scheme.
It is.
It is.
That is accurate.
Sir Keir Starmer is expected to announce plans for a compulsory UK-wide digital ID scheme in a speech on Friday.
And he
talk
did.
about the death of freedom of speech on a speech. The Prime Minister believes it would help crack down on illegal working and modernize the state, according to senior figures in government. Here's my question, once again, Mr. Starmer. Sir, how is that going to help? Because you see, illegal workers are working illegally for an employer who doesn't care. So simply...
All right. I mean, yeah, he's pretty much just going to restate what I've said. So I think I might watch this on my own time. All right. And that being said, I'm going to actually, I got a headache brewing. I think I would like to end here. It's slightly early, but not by too much. All right. I don't know if I'm going to do this exact route again. I might go back to doing what I did before, which is connecting via OBS. I feel like that worked better for me, as opposed to trying to do it through the YouTube studio. Unless somebody tells me different in the comments, that's what I'm going to do, I think. Although I might actually also try to do multi-streaming. I'm definitely going to try to do that. I don't know if I'll get it done today, but I'm going to try to do that. And if I do that, you know, we'll figure out how the hell it works. All right.